Testing, 1, 2, test, test. Testing, 1, 2, test, test.
evening. It is October 22nd, and I will call the North Kingstown School Committee meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is to recess to executive session pursuant to RIGL 42464 for the discussion of any discussions of job performance, character, or physical or mental health of a person or persons, provided that such person or persons affected have been notified in writing and advised that they may require the discussion to be held at an open meeting pursuant to RIGL 42465A1, superintendent review, recall NEA and K certified staff. Item 2, sessions pertaining to potential litigation/legal advice and collective bargaining pursuant to RIGL 4246A2, NEA and K MOA, NEA and NK MOA 2, NK ESP MOA bus contract extensions. And then item 4, discussions regarding matters of security included to but not limited to the deployment of security personnel or devices, RIGL 42465A3, discussion on school safety plans. Can I get a motion to go into executive?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So we will reconvene into opening session, and before the Pledge of Allegiance, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Duva to lead us in a moment of silence.
Yes. So we want to take a moment over the past week. We did lose 2 members of our community. So we want to take a moment to remember a recent graduate, Sean, who passed away, as well as a retired educator from the high school, and also, Mr. Gilmartin taught at the middle school too, but Mr. Joe Gilmartin, who was a history teacher in district and also our football coach.
So the next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Erin Burrell here. Robert Cates.
Here.
Jennifer Lima here. James Sheehan.
Here.
Debbie Lacasco here. Christine LaPierre. Joshua Bush.
Here. Great, and the calendar?
Okay, we have a lot on the calendar. Our next 2 school committee meetings are Tuesday, November 19th. That'll be 7 p.m. and Monday, December 2nd. That is our school committee biennial meeting, and that's also at 7 p.m. I'm not sure the location on that yet. That's to be determined. We have some subcommittee meetings. First one, temporary advisory subcommittee on district discipline will be Thursday, October 24th, 4:30 to 5:30 here at central office. Next, our policy advisory subcommittee meeting, Monday, October 28th. That's at 4:30 to 5:30 here at central office. Health and wellness advisory subcommittee, Wednesday, October 30th, 4:30 to 5:30 at central office. Our building advisory subcommittee, Wednesday, November 6th, 4:30 to 5:30 at central office. Our Health and Wellness Advisory Subcommittee meeting, Wednesday, November 13th. That's at 4:30 to 5:30 central office. And last but not least, our Budget and Finance Advisory Subcommittee, Monday, November 18th, from 4 to 5 here at central office. And in addition, we will have school committee office hours Thursday, October 24th, 6 p.m. here at central office.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to presentations and recognitions. Dr. Duva?
Yes. So very excited tonight to welcome one of our educators, Mrs. Sandra Mikowski, who is a history, social studies teacher at Davisville Middle School. Mrs. Mikowski recently, this is a big recognition for her, recently received the Distinguished Teaching Award through the National Council for Geographic Educators. It's a competitive process that she had to go through. You get nominated by your peers to go through this. And it's for primary and secondary educators who teach geography. It's the only national organization that recognizes teachers for teaching geography at all levels. So we are really proud of Sandra and excited to be able to recognize her tonight. And I want to add something as well. Recently, we had one of our work sessions on the vision of the graduate, and it was a student panel. And one of the questions was, what was most memorable experience or opportunity you had? And a few of the students that were there were some middle school students and some high school students, and a few of them said what they remembered most was attending DMS, having you as a teacher, and learning about the Silk Road. and I know from my own children. You had a few of my girls, and they enjoyed that as well. So you're making a huge impact on our students, and we really want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
To echo that, I was at a birthday party the other day, and I asked a middle schooler what their favorite thing was, and they told me that they got to go outside and trade things, and I believe that that is your class as well. So your current students are enjoying it very, very much.
Thank you. And I'd just like to take a few minutes just to introduce myself and what I experienced over the weekend and how I got to where I am this evening. My name is Sandra Mikulski. I teach 7th grade social studies at Davisville Middle School. Our curriculum is the Foundations of Geography with a focus on Asia and Africa. Over the weekend, I received the Distinguished K-12 Teaching Award from the National Council for Geographic Education in Tempe, Arizona. I was nominated for this competitive award by my colleague in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. I received letters of support from a colleague here in North Kingstown and one colleague down in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am proud to say that NCGE recognizes that North Kingstown values geographic education and celebrates how our curriculum reflects the importance of teaching about our global community. In my own classroom, I strive to bring the outside world into our own space by inviting anywhere from 6 to 10 guest speakers into my classroom every year. I consistently plan engaging hands-on activities, and most importantly, I work to empower our students to be change agents. I'm grateful for the support I've received from the administration at Davisville Middle School and the district over the years. This evening, I would like to end with a quote from Barack Obama as it encapsulates how I feel about geography within my classroom. The study of geography is about more than just memorizing places on a map. It's about understanding the complexity of our world, appreciating the diversity of cultures that exist across continents. And in the end, it's about using all the knowledge to help bridge divides and bring people together. And this is the welcome I received at 8:20 this morning. I had no idea. It was a huge surprise. Really appreciative of my Team A 7th graders and my school. So thank you for taking the time this evening. And
We just have a little something for you.
Okay.
Oh. Excellence.
Thank you.
You know, so you have paparazzi with you, so we'll do a picture.
Thank you.
You got your cancel now.
I do.
Congratulations.
That's the best kind of way to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing I need to do tonight.
I'm all staring at you, but no pressure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the rule with all guests at the school committee is that you may leave now, unless you're welcome to stay, but also we know you have an early. Yes. Congratulations again. Okay, and so that brings us to our next agenda item, which is citizens' comments. And so, Joni, who we got? Thank you. Okay, we'll start with Sherry.
Good evening. Sherry Kennedy, 25 Charter Oak Court. I just wanted to speak about one thing. I wanted to support Mr. Sheehan's update to the policy on the length of the school committee meetings. And this is needed since past meetings were beyond acceptable. The school committee should want the parents involved, and having long meetings makes this difficult. I also believe the agenda in the packet should be available with enough time for parents to review prior to the meeting. And also maybe informing parents like how to find them. I don't know that they're always, now that I go to the school committee meetings all the time, I know where to find them, but I'm not sure that a lot of parents do. But I believe the reason the meetings have been so long is due to the school committee not having specific goals on what they want to accomplish. The goals should be around student education and safety. And the school committee members, administration, teachers, parents, and students should be working together as a team with the mission of North Kingstown being the best school district in Rhode Island. We have a great community, and I really know that we could do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and the next up is Pam.
Pam Pinero, 710 Slocum Road. Good evening. For the first time this year, I went to the open house for the high school, and I have to say it was very well done. I really enjoyed visiting the classes and having the extra activity club areas to visit. Kudos to all the faculty and staff who organized and were available to us parents and families. I also just wanted to say that I went to 3 open houses this year, 1 for Girl Scouts and 2 for my kids, 1 elementary school, 1 middle school, and 1 the high school. And, you know, what really struck me this year was that the school department administration was present at every single open house I was at. It was really wonderful to see Dr. Duva and Mr. Mezzanotti engaging with families at these open houses very actively and presenting information and really helping to restore trust to the district. This simple act is so needed here in North Kingstown as we continue to rebuild and recover from the past uneasiness of our district. I also want to start by thanking the folks who were involved with the extensive preparation leading up to the school pond vote, including holding last night's meeting. I truly appreciate the hard work that has gone into this process. However, with just 2 weeks left before the vote, I'd like to encourage you to release the frequently asked questions that's been advertised and promised. I really haven't seen it yet. I also suggest that it be made available during the middle school tours this week so the public can access important information while they are engaging directly with the facilities in question. The frequently asked questions should include answers to key questions that many have been asking, such as updates on the soil testing, whether Wickford Middle School has been officially deemed a historic building, detailed maintenance plans and strategies and guardrails for adjusting if unexpected costs arise. I know this is important because we are seeing issues in the news on rising costs on school bonds like those we've seen in East Greenwich and Warwick. With so little time left, it's vital that the public feels comfortable and confident in their understanding of these details before making such an important decision. Thank you again for all the work you've done and for considering these concerns.
Thank you. Anyone else like to sign up for citizens' comments? Okay, pass that over to Jeremy, please. Okay, so we'll move on to Superintendent's report. Dr. Duva.
Thank you. So a few items to bring up. One, I just want to provide a follow-up. I know you had asked that we share communication with families regarding bus monitors and what buses have monitors, what buses don't, what do we do when we don't have that. So a letter was sent out by our supervisor. She sent that out to all of the families. Letters were different because the buses have monitors, obviously we didn't have them in, but informing those families that don't. It was also talking about safety and that bus evacuations would be completed in the fall and the spring. I also want to note that this week is National School Bus Safety Week as well. Most of the evacuations have been completed for the fall. There's one other school that is scheduled to happen, and then again, similarly that would happen later in the spring as well. The next update is just want to make sure that school committee is aware of this. The high school did work on changing some traffic patterns in the parking lot, back lot by where the students park, just because there have been a few instances of minor car accidents with students and other issues just of passing back and forth, and it's very congested. So there is a new traffic pattern that is being put in place tomorrow morning. Mr. Anderson, along with Mr. Murphy, our Director of Facilities and School Safety, will be out there in the morning helping to direct. Signs have been made, so now when students and families are dropping their children off in the morning, when you go through the back lot, that back entrance will be a one-way, with a right lane for students to go to the back parking lot and the left lane for parent drop-off and students park in the front lot, which I think will help a lot within that traffic and congestion. So, we're listening to feedback from people. We're really trying to be active, at all the schools and making positive changes. I want to mention about the middle school tours. There were tours held today at Davison Middle School. Tomorrow there'll be tours at Wickford Middle School, one at 4 o'clock, one at 5 o'clock. If anyone's interested in going, just meet at the front door. Mr. Murphy will be there to provide the tours, and we will provide, again, something next week. We just don't have that. We'll get that scheduled as well, just looking at our availability of doing that. And the FAQ will be out. We're working on that. We're just kind of firming up some of the responses so that way that's out there for everyone. And the public forum I thought was, I thought it went well last night. I thought it was also very well attended. We held it in the media center at the high school. We set up 50 chairs. Almost every chair was taken and people were standing. So it was a good representation of our community and families. Some people that came out just to listen, they haven't heard from it before. Others that had asked us some questions. Video we should have available to go up tomorrow. I know sometimes it takes 48 hours to get that up. Just looking at Victor and so we'll have the presentation. And my plan is to also take the video and the presentation and email that out to all of the families as well as just as a reminder so they have that. So those are all of the updates that I have.
Ken, I'd like with that, I'd commend the staff and everybody's there from the town and the school side, particularly Ralph and yourself. You answered every question forthrightly to the best of your ability. Anybody who had questions actually exhaustively had asked every question they had. I think they were answered very well. I had several people say afterwards that they felt more comfortable with the level of the process that we have here and that it was very transparent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you mind if I add something to your report?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize our superintendent, Dr. Duva, who has distinguished himself as a leader with compassion. In the past 2 weeks, Dr. Duva has faced a range of challenges that few among us can comprehend. He's led responses to safety threats, easing the fears of students and families, and communicating them in a timely and specific manner in the process. In the most recent tragedy, the loss of beloved teacher and coach, Joe Gilmartin, Dr. Duva took decisive action to prioritize the well-being of those most affected. His actions were driven by a sense of responsibility and by his compassion for others. He quickly recognized the scope of the loss and the impact it would have on our school community. He took action to provide the resources and space for people to process their grief and to connect with others if needed. He led the effort to close the high school on Monday, recognizing that honoring Joe's memory was the priority. Finally, Dr. Duva took the lead with community members and staff to ensure that Joe's former colleagues could be safely transported to his service, and if there was not enough room at the church, that they could view the service live from the high school auditorium. James Allen said, "Adversity does not build character, it reveals it." We are fortunate in North Kingstown to have Dr. Duva as our superintendent because he understands that being a great leader is not about seeking credit or attention, but rather about putting others before yourself. And that is why I wanted to mention this tonight and highlight the fact that Dr. Duva is a prime example of great leadership. Thank you.
Madam Chair, without objection, I'd like to see if we can include that verbatim copy paste into the record of the minutes today. If there's no objection. We're very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
That's normal.
Yeah, I mean, if there's no objection, you just attach it to the minutes.
That's unanimous.
Okay. Okay. So thank you, Rob, for that. And thank you, Dr. Rubin, for you and the team's effort this week. Let's go to, was that it for your superintendent's report?
Yes.
You're good?
That was
Okay. So routine items, let's go to do executive session. There were no votes taken in executive today. Can I get a motion to seal the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then consent agenda. Would anyone like to exempt anything from the consent agenda? Okay. Hearing none, can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So that will bring us to reports. So it looks like financial report. Anything on that? Questions from the committee or anything that the administration wants to highlight regarding the financial report attached?
So just add, we will put this on the agenda again at the next meeting, and we'll put it under unfinished business. That way you can vote and make an approval of the changes that are in the budget. Because there's combination of the state aid that was added that's in there. We just want to make sure that's formally approved by the school committee.
Okay, so we have it for review at this point, and then for the next agenda, we'll put it on under business
make sure it's
to approve. Understood.
And this also includes the version that we have here is the adjustments that have been made from the time that we approved the budget to now with
True.
reallocated money based on things that we've approved, but
Yes,
this is the first time we're
additional-
seeing it in that.
Right, so we had additional staffing with the librarian, the kindergarten teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, perfect. So if the committee can review that, send any questions to Dr. Duva to share with the finance team if they have any prior to that meeting, and then we'll see that for business at the next meeting. Okay, moving on to advisory committee reports. We have 4. The first one is CELAC, which I will do. So CELAC is the North Kingstown Special Education Local Advisory Committee, and they meet monthly. They've moved their meetings to the administration building. They were formerly held at the library, and so we're happy to welcome them in a district building. On that agenda, they had a variety of things that they were talking about. The Director of People, formerly known as Pupil Personnel Services, Dr. Santa was there, as well as Kendra and Jackie from her team. And so it's a combination of family members and guardians of parents in the district, of course the school committee rep, and then some of the administration. So it's a nice group that gets together. At that meeting, they talked about some planning that they wanted to do as far as how they wanted to engage people in the community. One of their biggest concerns was making sure people knew about CELAC, as well as trying to engage particularly parents and support and guardians to attend the meetings. And so they do educational presentations at their meetings that are applicable to their population. And so they were thinking about what they might want to do this year, and that Dr. Santa was going to help them with some special speakers to come in that would hit a wide variety of our parents. They also talked about their social media account and how they are, one of their goals this year is trying to have more folks follow them. So it really seemed like their priorities was trying to get the word out about the group so that they can engage more folks. But they also really acknowledged that sometimes for specific students, their family, it's difficult for them to get out. They don't have childcare. It might be hard to get to an in-person meeting, which is a challenge, but mandated by law. And then they also talked a lot about understanding kind of what the different changes were in the different programs for the district. So Dr. Santa spent some time going through that, and then they talked very shortly about maybe some impacts that they might want to have in giving recommendations regarding the budget for students, as well as paying attention to state and federal laws and where they can make impact there. So they had a very productive meeting, and probably more to come from that group when their next one comes. So, thank you. Next one is DEI.
The DEI Advisory Committee last met on October 9th. Rob gave the committee an update on the rollout of the district's equity vision statement and what the next steps will be now that the school committee has approved it. The group reviewed the action items from the equity audit and decided to focus on the recommendation around equity-focused professional development. And we also discussed the need for an overall accessibility, inclusivity review of the district. Feedback from the April district-wide PD will be reviewed, and a list of all the PD attended by staff over the past year is going to be compiled. The students on the committee are compiling a list of potential questions to use in a survey to students get their perspective, and PD opportunities available through other organizations and other school districts out to their students and staff are going to be researched. Our next meeting is scheduled for November 20th at 5:30.
Okay, thank you. Policy.
The Policy Advisory Committee last met on October 15th. We discussed the attendance policies, JE and JER, and the administration is going to bring a final draft to the committee for us to review at our next meeting. We reviewed the first draft of a consolidated policy covering assignment of students to schools. Revisions will be made based on feedback and presented at the next meeting. Preliminary review of a combined transportation policy was discussed, and that will also come back before the Policy Advisory Committee at the next meeting. Lastly, we discussed the changes that have been requested to Policy BE school committee meetings over the past few weeks by residents and school committee members. Our recommendations on the agenda for this evening's school committee meeting. At our next meeting, we plan to review the policies just mentioned, as well as the HIV policy and dress code. We're keeping all policies in process on the agenda in order to allow the option to discuss them. Hearing the feedback that this makes it difficult to know which ones will actually be addressed at each meeting, we'll attempt to denote this on agendas moving forward. Our next meeting will be on Monday, October 28th at 4:30.
Question? I have a question. Do we have any students on this committee on policy?
Not according to the policy. I was actually talking something about that earlier today. That's that and the building are the only two that don't have one. We can't add a student to it without changing the charge.
The policy committee has a separate policy that outlines the policy committee, so we would just have to amend that one.
Yeah, just so it's I think it's outside of the building. And then is there a public member too then, or on the committee?
No.
Who's on the committee?
It's myself, Dr. Earl, Dr. Santa, Rob, Ken, and Andrew. The thought being that
Andrew, you're a member?
As an advisor,
Yeah.
Oh,
not a
okay.
member of the committee.
we bring people in and we ask people for their input depending on what the policies
Yeah.
are that are being discussed.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, when we created that policy, we were thinking about like who would be like community members and different folks being on it, but then we realized a lot of the topics were very topic specific, and so it made more sense instead of having folks come in for ones that weren't applicable to their comments, like welcoming folks into the table, not just in the audience to talk through things. So there's definitely an attempt to have community input and teacher and administrator input, but also didn't want to have folks have to sit on a committee that they were not going to be, like wouldn't be fruitful for them. But I'm sure we could reevaluate that. There was nothing in writing when we first started that.
Because I think it'd be helpful to have, like we do in other committees, a public member as well as a student. We always invite them. We have a student here tonight.
Yeah, I have no problem
And that's
with that. We
this is the big level too, the big seats.
Yeah, no, I
So,
think all
yeah.
of the advisory committee should have student
Yeah.
voice on it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can relook at
Thank
that.
you.
Budget and finance?
Yes, thank you. So as the current chair of the Budget Finance, the new Budget Finance Advisory Committee, we have first organizational meeting. We do have a student on there. We also have a public member as well. We talked about a number of topics. One came up, the topics, just kind of an overview. Leslie Ann was, she was up there. She was wonderfully orchestrating much of this because she is our big finance director here in the system, but we went over such things as the audit for fiscal year 2024. We looked at concerns about tuition payments and the schedule from out-of-district students. We looked at our current fund balance, the checking account, where checks were going and money expended. A topic was brought up of we're going to start the process of contract negotiation for bus contractors and education support professionals. I'm looking to set into schedule just for the purposes of oversight, accountability, oversight of our budget, also provide recommendations to the school committee, our capital funds, maintenance funds, just to make sure that everything stays on track and we know where the money's going. Particularly if the good people in North Kingstown approve the bond, I would like to see this committee, focus on that, periodically check in, see where's money being expended, and it's being spent prudently. It is a taxpayer money, of course. So things are going well. First committee, then we'll have one more, actually next meeting rather, on November 18th, and that's it.
Thank you so much. Any questions
Thank you.
regarding that? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to unfinished business. Anything from the 23-24 school budget?
Not tonight.
Okay, 24-25. CIP, existing bond, future bond.
Yes. So I just want to provide an update to the committee regarding.
There is another agenda item too.
Yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure I'm not jumping ahead. So give me one. That and then new business.
There's a stage 2 update and update on public outreach for school bond. So if you want to wait and do those there, I think it.
I'm not seeing this. Oh, there it's not. I'll wait for this
Alright.
to update.
Perfect. Item D, district goals. Can we get a motion?
Make a motion to discuss.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Dr. Duba, do you want to give an update?
Yes. You had provided me earlier today with edits to the goals I submitted. I just did not have enough time receiving today to now to make those
It's okay.
changes.
Yep.
Well, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
So when you sent me there,
Yeah.
you asked me. So I just, I'll go through that. I'll be able to make those changes, and we'll, put it forward for the next meeting.
Perfect. Anyone else? The committee was supposed to look and see if they wanted to give any suggestions to the administration regarding the goals. And so, is there anything else as Dr. Du was doing a revision of the document that they would like to make sure to see in?
I
If not,
already
no
gave
worries.
them all mine, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Good. All right, thank you so much. Moving on to the next one, the bus monitor variance update. Can we get a motion for that?
Make a motion to discuss.
So RIDE did approve the variance for us, so we do have that approval. I know Michelle is still working on trying to, fill those positions with bus monitors. Stephanie Russo, our HR director, did go out into the community, and we've put flyers out in multiple places throughout town, as well as it's continuing to be on School Spring and Indeed for getting information. We put it on Facebook, so we're trying to get it out everywhere that we can. I think if we were allowed to put a sign on the bus, we'd have the buses drive around with a sign too.
Are we not allowed to do that? I'm just saying. We had a really nice one for the parade. Great. Any comments or questions regarding that?
No, I saw the flyer at Dave's. Thank you. That was good. I was like, wait a minute, what's that? So yeah, the only thing I didn't see was like a specific email out to our community saying, hey, we're looking for this. Like the flyer went out, but not kind of like what Debbie had brought up about like, are you interested in subbing? Are you like, if you don't want to take it on full time, like something like that.
Yeah, we'll work on something like that as well.
Any other thoughts or comments regarding the bus monitor or the variance update? Okay, moving it on. We need, so this is a carryover from last time. Can we get a motion for this one?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I'll just make one comment. This is just a title change with the department title change that we had approved previously. It's just aligning the different positions in their contracts with that, just for clarification. Any other comments or discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item G, can we get a motion for that?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
So based on the discussions that we had at the last meeting, I revised this list to reflect that the district policy in terms of scheduling of events only needs to be followed for the days listed on the ride calendar as days off or observed days. I left the other dates on there as we discussed for informational purposes only. The policy itself that goes along with this list needs to be revised slightly to reflect these changes, and that's on the agenda for this evening.
And that's what we have in front of us. Correct.
Yes.
Okay, questions or comments regarding this?
Yeah, just a question. So you have work restricted on the right side. Does that mean for school? Or
No, only, it says on the bottom, only
Yeah.
blue days are the ones that need to be, that's just a notation about, like, that these holidays are for that religion.
So we are just confirming the ride ones?
Yes.
I do think to that point though, maybe adding a definition for what work restricted means. People might not understand like what that means for that might not be a common knowledge thing. So maybe just adding. I'm happy to approve it, but maybe if we just add like a little footnote of just what
I
work
misunderstood
restricted
it.
means, so that it's not confusing and makes people think that it's work restricted for our employees, if that makes sense. And that clarification just would be helpful and a good education moment.
That's how the holidays observed.
Yep, yes, that's, yeah, but I think we could spell that out. I think that would be helpful.
It would be spelled out there.
Any questions about the description at the top, or? Anything, Dr. Duva?
So if this is approved, what do we do? I'm just going to throw a date up there. So November 2nd.
Remember what?
November 2nd.
So it would be, district events would be scheduled as normal with no restrictions, but I think what we had talked about the last meeting was like if a teacher was scheduling something for their classroom and they knew that, you know, scheduling something on the 2nd or the 1st would make a difference for their classroom, this would give them the heads up that maybe the 1st is the better option, but not required. You know, we can get rid of this list entirely, like, because from the time that we met the last time, the purpose of the policy changed, right? There have been some miscommunication. So initially it was going to be days where there was some restrictions on district scheduling. So based on the conversations last week, we were like, nope, we're just going to do that for the ride days, but we discussed leaving the other days in order to provide information. If people think it's too confusing, we can get rid of this and just go by the policy.
I think the only thing that's confused is just the work restricted labels on the side and what an educator might read that to mean.
Yeah,
As
that makes sense.
the
Yep.
chair said earlier.
I think I think explaining all of those too, like what a holy, like just anything that we can do to help people understand it. The other thing is maybe just being able to have a summary doc of the ones that are in blue. Right?
Those are
Or-
actually on our calendar.
Yeah, it's on our calendar.
Yeah, it's on our calendar, yes.
So that's fine. Never mind. We do have summary dates on the calendar. I think it's good. I think it's a good compromise, and can be a useful tool for educators, hopefully, and then maybe we can get some feedback from them on the, like as we implement it. Like, of course, we're always open to feedback and whatnot.
So just the ones like where there's an underline, is that a link? Is that why the underline?
The file itself has a link, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So it says holidays in red and blue denote days on which policy. So the holidays that are in blue,
Or ones that ride.
Because those are the RIDE designated
Okay.
observation days.
including, and I'm just asking because this is new to me, the first section on the top here as well, that's all
No,
in blue?
blue, like highlight blue.
I think that's a good point, though, Jen. Unbluing
Okay.
those links.
So I think we can
Yeah.
note that
okay.
only
Yeah.
because it says
Yep.
it says holidays in red and blue, so I was looking at the.
Pick a
I just want
different
to make sure that we
color.
all
I got
understand.
you. No, that
so.
makes sense. Pick a different color.
Not to complicate things, but for colorblind people, color coding things is very difficult and not very inclusive. So we could maybe, I don't know what's a different way to do it, but that is
Okay.
would be challenging for someone that was not able to discern colors.
Maybe just change the font.
No, that's hard too. I'll come up
Yeah.
with something.
Yeah,
If
just something to
we're all
think
in
about.
agreement on
Yeah.
like the principle, I can make other changes. My only other question is in looking at this, like when you said to me to set November 7th, like I had to go like this. Is it more user friendly if we
Yes.
sort it by date?
Yes. I wasn't going to say that because it seemed hard, but I think it would be helpful. And then you could add a column for.
Yeah, initially I had it that
Yeah.
way, I had it by date, and then we're good by this because it was copying directly from like another district that does this. But yeah, I can do that. Okay, I'm gonna withdraw my motion to approve. And I will bring this back when we see the policy again at the next meeting.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to policies. So, Jen?
So I'm gonna make a motion to discuss, BE school committee meetings.
Second.
So this is the first read of an existing policy that's been revised based on feedback and requests that we've received over the past few weeks. There are a lot of factors to consider with this policy and a lot of competing interests. There's no perfect way to do this because one change can create an issue with another. We tried our best to balance providing citizens with the opportunity to participate, to be respectful of everyone's time, while still allowing the committee to do the work that needs to be done. We'll see this policy one more time before voting on it, and any member can make a request for an amendment when the vote comes up.
Point of inquiry to the superintendent. I had actually requested, originally back on September 27, I reiterated the request according to rules on October 10th, which is still 22 days in advance. And I had asked my amendments to be considered on a first reading, of course, basis today. Do we know what happened? It was not on the calendar.
Yeah, I'm not. I think it just got missed from getting put on because it was forwarded.
Yeah.
To the clerks. So I'm not trying to.
No, I don't want for anybody.
Yeah, I think it just
verbal
got
fuss.
missed from getting put on there.
But I would, if I could make a motion then that we place it on the next agenda at our next
Is
meeting.
it something that can get discussed because we're talking about the policy?
We discussed it at the policy
Yeah, it
advisory
could be.
committee. and
Where
we
it's on the
discussed it.
agenda.
Yeah, we
You
can
can
discuss
discuss
it.
it.
I'm
But
just
it's,
thinking that
but it's
way.
not a formal amendment, which would be entertained unto itself. It would be approached only by an amendment, I guess, to this amendment. A sub-amendment?
Right. So you would. Right. I would just. I would mention. I would bring up what your
Okay.
recommendation.
Then-
what you're recommending, and then.
Okay, sure. Then I'll make a an amendment to this current revision, which, by the way, I will say, in all fairness, there's some good ideas there. I just had noted that everybody's time is valuable, and of course, the later we stay, the more tired we get. Our judgment, and this is good later on. And unlike many of our neighboring districts, in the last 12 months, I counted 10 of the meetings that we had ran over the official adjournment time of either 10 or 10:30, depending if there's an executive session. I'm not here to say people are bad people, just whatever. I'm not saying that at all. But I think we need to be more conscious of people's time and how valuable that time is, particularly staff that have to stay here and get up early in the morning. So that's why I put in unanimous consent, and that's what you have in front of you. Ken did make this after we noticed there was an error, where it does have it on the second page.
Yeah, we don't have copies for everyone, but
Oh.
I can go make
So
copies.
it basically will say, a new time of adjournment for any meetings may be amended by, and I inserted unanimous consent of the school committee members present. Now, it may seem like a difficult task at unanimous consent. I can tell you, having worked in the Senate for 20 years, there are
Wait,
many
so,
things we
sorry,
could do that.
Just a point of order, Andrew.
Yeah, I make the
He-
amendment to do
Yep.
that.
Doesn't he need a second before he can put the amendment?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Yep, I thought he was explaining the amendment.
Yeah, but I felt like we moved into
That's fine.
discussion.
I'll make that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion with the stipulation that I get a second, because if I don't, then I would have liked to have my amendment discussed. Because if I don't get a second, then it's dead on arrival.
Can I just, while we're in discussion,
Yeah.
we did discuss that at length in the policy advisory committee, and we went back and forth. And the concern, and which is why it wasn't brought forward, was twofold. It was that, to nothing this committee does.
Can we get a second on it, just for?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
So I think what
for
would be
procedure
helpful,
purposes.
Jim,
Because
is
that's what the
state.
chair had brought up.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So we have a motion on the table for discussion of the policy because it's a first read, so it can't be, the policy itself cannot be voted on.
As a first
But-
read, yes.
Yeah, but the amendment, you could make an amendment to the
You
first
just get a motion
read.
to amend on the table.
And so just, what I would do is just clearly state what you want the amendment to be, and then a school committee member can choose to second it or not. And then I hear your point, let's deal with each problem
Yeah, sure.
at once, so then if
Right,
that
right.
does not happen, we can
Sure.
talk about what would happen after
That's
that, but if it does happen, then we'll open discussion on
That's
the
fine.
amendment.
So it would be a new time of adjournment of any meeting may be amended by unanimous consent of the school committee members present. And I had the second one that said, added to the same policy in a different section, citizens' comments shall commence no later than 7:30 p.m. during any regular meeting in North Kingstown School Committee. So I wanted to put those forward for consideration, so I'll make that motion.
All right, so we have a motion. Does Jim have a second? I'll second it. I'll second it.
Okay.
I think it's worth discussing.
Oh, we can discuss it.
Yeah. So we have the two different amendments. We have the one about unanimous consent to extend the meeting, which is currently in our policy as a majority, like 3
Correct.
votes would get it. And then the other piece was the citizens' comments
At
with a very
7:30,
specific
no later
period
than
of time.
7:30.
Yeah.
So-
And so,
So just to
Yeah.
finish the explanation, if I could, please. So I was saying, we do have things that come up by unanimous consent, just like entering into a record the comments, the kind comments that we have from our assistant superintendent about our great superintendent. It will happen, I can tell you, that people who are sitting here, and no matter who it is, if you're halfway through the last issue and you need like 15 more minutes, I don't believe anybody who's reasonable-minded is going to object to, through unanimous consent, of just extending later. I will point out, too, that the current rule asks us to specify a new time. We have not done that. Of those 10 times over the last 12 months, we actually violated that rule by not setting a new time. That unto itself is a form of restraint. And again, I know people want to discuss things. I've been here long enough to know this is a policy wonkish group, but we have to be considerate of other people's times, and that's why I proffered that. And the 7:30, for the same reason, I want to make sure that the citizenry get to, not have to wait sometime to get an executive session. We have some serious issues, no doubt, but we should either, have a separate meeting if it's a big issue for executive committee, or just extend the executive committee after at the end of the agenda, and that might actually quicken the pace of things too. So that was the purpose of that. You all can discuss it. Be happy to discuss that with you.
So, going back to what I was saying, we discussed these in the policy advisory committee, and I'll take the citizens' comments from the first because it's a little bit more cut and dried. We added 2 changes to this policy to try to improve the timeliness of citizens' comments, understanding that that is an issue for people. We added a phrase that says, whenever possible, citizens' comments will be scheduled before any votes take place and within the first hour of the open portion of the meeting. Citizens can also email questions or comments directly to the school committee members at any time. And in conjunction with that, we added a sentence that says, when meetings of the school committee are preceded by executive session, every attempt shall be made to start the open portion of the meeting no later than 15 minutes after the scheduled time. If necessary, the executive session will be paused and resumed. Based on the executive committee agenda, the school committee chair and superintendent will, due to their best ability, determine the amount of time needed and adjust the start time of the executive session or school committee meeting before posting the agenda. What we just talked about in the policy advisory meeting is, like, tonight we had one presentation. It lasted 10 minutes. It was, in and out. We started on time. But if we have an agenda where we have multiple presentations, to stop the presentations at 7:30 in order to put citizens' comments in isn't reasonable. So we went back and forth on, like, what was a reasonable amount of time. Was it a half hour after the meeting started? Was it 45 minutes? And we figured an hour was a reasonable amount of time, with the caveat that being aware and trying to make every effort to start the open meeting no later than 15 minutes. So that's the rationale behind that. Did I miss anything?
I'm just looking for a mechanism to have a little more pressure on us as a body to finish on time, to be courteous to everybody else who's waiting on us.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if you got to watch the meeting, Jim, but we did
Yeah,
talk about it.
You,
Yeah.
Jen, and the
Rob.
assistant superintendent.
Yeah. We talked about, like, we don't disagree that we want to try to get to that piece early, but that when we were working through the different scenarios, it seemed challenging. So, like, Jen gave that one example, but then we also talked about, like, guests that we have from different places, like companies, like for the building group when they're here and their employees are here. We also talked about, like, when we have students that come to get awards and recognitions, and, like, what that would look like to pause it. And so I think our goal was to acknowledge the fact that it is sometimes, for that piece, we want to get to it early, and that should be our attempt, but also knowing realistically that it might not be possible to do within 30 minutes, and is kind of that compromise language of the hour.
So you have within the hour. I don't think that's...
What if also, and I had a family emergency, so I wasn't able to get the policy meeting. But what if maybe we also put something in here about the number of presentations? I know
That's what I was gonna
sometimes
suggest.
we
Yeah.
try different
Yeah.
stuff in, and maybe we say no more than 2 presentations.
So we talked
We
and
added
that
in
way
a
that's
sentence.
there, and that limits time too,
That
so that we
said-
get to
Yeah.
public comment
Because
earlier.
again, like, if you start to really narrowly define a policy, you really lose your ability to actually operate also.
Yeah.
So, like, if we said no more than 2 presentations per policy, and then something came up where we had to do 3, like, we would have to change the policy in order to do that. So what we did was we put, when preparing the agenda, the length of the meeting should be kept in mind. And that, I think, in the discussions
Yeah.
that we had, a large portion of the reason why the meetings extend is because either the length of the agenda, the preparation in advance of, the backups for the agenda, and, the just inability to review and ask questions and, like, keep the agenda tight. I think the more we can tighten the agenda, the less likely it is that we will continue to have extended
But
meetings.
that's precisely my point, though. So I've been in governance for a long time. I won't go into things, amending the Constitution, I've been handed twice, as an example. But there is mechanisms and procedures, but there's also self-restraint. And I think what goes into the agenda is a question of self-restraint. I don't think anybody goes into the agenda and say, hey, let's make it real long. Hey, add more stuff. Nobody wants to do that, but it's easy to do it. It's harder to hold back.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to put in the unanimous consent on, like, how long meetings go, and that will kind of, like going on a diet, if you will, force us to focus on having shorter meetings. And I said I looked at neighboring school committees. They're doing the same things we are, I believe, in Narragansett, South Kingstown, East Greenwich, and their meetings are much shorter by about half our average meeting.
I think, too, when we talked about the number, Ken, for, like, how many presentations, I think my concern was we didn't want to put a number in that would limit the work that you all need us to do. So sometimes our presentations are optional, right? We want to recognize somebody, we want to celebrate someone. Yes, we have some flexibility there, but we didn't want to say, like, if we had invited, say, I think the example I had used in the meeting was the truancy officer, and then we also needed a presentation from the high school about the program of studies, and then something else that you all wanted us to know about. Like, our goal is to have the presentations before citizens' comments so they can be well informed and comment on those. And then I was trying to think through, like, okay, if we were limiting it to just 2, like, which one goes? Like, do I say, no, sorry, we can't have Shivali come and talk about this important business act? But if we put in a number, then we'd have to amend that. And so I think we were trying to say, yes, we should think about that. We could talk about limiting how long presentations are, all sorts of things to try to do it. But I was nervous about putting just like I was nervous about putting 7:30 because the meetings don't always start at a specific time. Like, writing language to help get to what the goal is of trying to have more efficient meetings, but not making it more difficult by putting in like specifics that we can't control in the future.
Previous school committees have operated under this particular rule of ending either at 10 or 10:30.
Yeah,
so they're already saying that this is enough time, and they have done it, as far as I know. They have kept within that time with rare exceptions.
Yeah. And I think
last year.
I think the biggest thing for us is, to your point, Jim, no one is sitting here being like, you know what, I don't want to see my kids.
I'm not trying to do it.
I don't want to see my kids tonight. You know, like, I don't want to put them to bed. I'd like to stay here till 10:30 and then get up and work a full day job and then go to an advisory committee meeting. Like, I don't think that's the goal. I think this past year was very extenuous because the year prior we had temporary administration, we had interim everything, so we weren't able to do a lot of the work that we needed to do. We were in, for lack of a better word, catch-up mode that whole first year. Dr. Duba came in, we continued to be in catch-up mode. We had policies that had not been touched since 2012. We had a lot of administrative changes that I think impacted things like getting financial reports that were easy to understand and things. So I think a lot of things went into the length of the meetings this year, in addition to my leadership of wanting people to speak and be able to ask questions and be able to have conversation. So I do take part of that because I do want voice in the committee. But I do think that you all in the committee has a mechanism for ending the meetings at a certain time. And I think, to your point, those motions that to extend could be designated more. The committee makes the motion. So if you all wanted to say, I move that we only extend the meeting to talk about this one item, or I move that we extend the meeting until this time, that is up to the committee to make those motions as they would like. The motions that we've gotten have been open-ended. They don't have to be. And I do think that unanimous makes me personally nervous because I think we don't make unanimous votes in this. We did not vote on putting that in. We could have, but we did not. I think we would have had a unanimous vote if we had called the vote. But let me just finish one second, please. But I think for me, like, we made the decision to hire the superintendent on a majority vote. Like, this committee functions on a majority vote. If you are functioning on unanimous, you're giving power to one person to say, nope, we're done. And that makes me very nervous because the work in our job here is to support the administration, and if the things that we don't get to are going to make them not be able to serve students, I don't want one member of this committee being able to say, nope, we're not, 2 more weeks, that's it. Like, that makes me nervous. I think 3 is reasonable, and I think the time frame's there. Whether or not people vote for it, that's your all's decision. Like, I have said, I vote yes because I just want to get it done with. If people want to go home at 10, we go home at 10. Like, if 3 members of this committee want to go home, it's done. And that is the power of the committee and the board. Making it unanimous makes it, I don't think that is a good choice because then that puts the power in one. And to your point, we're assuming that it's in best intent, right? But there could be a committee member here that long plays a different discussion, and not here, but in the future committees, long plays a discussion, does something manipulative to the time to make sure that we don't get to something very specific. And that makes me very nervous to give one member control of a body that affects students and the administration in getting their work done.
So, no, you make valid points. I would just like to ask our counselors over there, I'm sorry, you're doing something. But my reading of the rule currently, it says the hour of adjournment, I'm quoting, the hour of adjournment of any meeting may be amended by a majority consent of the school committee members present. How I interpret that is that when you go over either 10 or 10:30, depending if you had an executive session or not, you have to set the exact time of when you're going to adjourn. We have yet to do that. We've never done that. So I believe we're in violation of the rule. It may be a step in the right direction, I'll say.
In the policy,
if we actually
Oh, I was just saying, I'm sorry.
BESC, subparagraph 3. That would be a big step in the right direction. Then you have to kind of realize. Oh, should we say a half hour, an hour, or 2 hours? It's open-ended right now.
I think it's a realistic suggestion, and I think if they like, again, you all make the motions, even if that rule isn't in the policy, you all can make the motions however you want it to be. I believe that it is, but
It
like,
is.
and we could enact that the next time we need it.
Yeah, I mean,
Most certainly.
I don't think that we're currently in violation of this policy because it just says the hour of adjournment of any meeting may be amended. So we could vote to say we are not ending it at 10. Nowhere in here does it say that we have to name another time.
Yeah, but the hour of adjournment already is set as 10 or 10:30.
Right, and we're
In
saying
that
it
paragraph.
could be amended, and we're saying we want to continue the meeting past 10, so
Right,
that's
but-
amending the time.
No, it's not amending it. You have to set the hour, meaning you have to tell the next time. We normally adjourn either at 10 or 10:30, but we're amending it to, tonight's going to be 11, or it's going to be 11:30.
Regardless
I'll see
of the
what the
interpretation, I think
Henning
your
said.
suggestion is good. Like, I do think that it makes sense to make a motion.
If
To
you want to
say-
make,
yeah.
you want to
I do
clarify
think that's
that,
good,
if,
yeah.
then at least you have some perspective and say,
Yeah, I don't
let's
think
try
that
to
that's a
trim
bad
the time as
suggestion.
much as possible.
I will just add that in looking at other districts and things like that, I looked at Barrington, which is what I consider a good district.
Comparable, if you, like
Yeah, and
scope-wise.
so, a third of their meetings went over 3 hours in the last year.
That's what I'm told.
But they
The
do
the
have
lawyers know that
they
the
do
team,
have a policy in place that says that their meetings will end, and that once it gets to be about, and I don't have the exact language in front of me right now, but it says 9:30, 9:45, the chair will ask, is there anything on the agenda that is time sensitive that we have to do tonight? And only those things will be considered. Everything else gets moved to the next agenda.
That's in
I
the
would
policy.
prefer, that's in their policy. I would prefer
Yeah.
that. I think that, as well as,
Yeah.
I would like to see, and I know we brought up the Shivali and the program of studies and everything, but the last time we had that, it was benefited, because I would rather see the length of each presentation capped at something, because what Shivali did, that's, the program of studies is a huge, massive presentation. All she did, she submitted the whole thing to us. It was our responsibility to read it.
Yeah.
And we read it, but then she came in and she only had like 2 slides.
Right.
And she said, these are the highlights, these are the important things that we need to point out to you, that we need you to enact tonight. And so I would rather see presentations,
Yeah,
if
that was a very good
possible,
example.
limited, because I think that would reduce time, because we have 5-6 presentations, we can go an hour and a half. And I think that that's just a little
And
out.
I think one of the other things too is that
I've got
if
it now.
I want to put something on the agenda, I have to either let Aaron or Dr. Duva know 4 calendar days before the next meeting.
That's Dr. Moore.
And
No, it's more than that.
no, it says shall elect committee. They deliver it to us 4 days
Yeah,
in
we-
advance.
That's the agenda.
That's, we send the agenda, yeah.
But
That's what we're supposed to be doing with the agenda,
right,
yeah.
but my gut feeling is that there has to be a cutoff when people can send in and say, I want to be on the agenda, because like today at 5:15, I was running paperwork at home so that I could quick review it. That's also a violation of 4 calendar days before,
Yep.
because I should have a right not to have to be reading at the stop sign to figure out what's going on at
Yep.
the meeting tonight. And I think for the staff too, they're put under the gun, like, you gotta get this out, we gotta have this discussion for tonight, which isn't fair to them either.
Yeah.
So
Just
I
to
think
clarify.
we need to stand by our rules and say, sorry, the agenda items were due by such and such a day before the meeting, and 4 days
Just move that to the next
before, we all have the paperwork so we can read it.
I think that's what it goes down to is like organizational discipline, right? I mean, discipline in getting the agenda set and then discipline in getting the backup set so that the committee can review and ask the questions ahead of time instead of asking it here. And honestly, I think that is part of the reason why the meetings are longer than they have been in the past. And it also combined with what, Aaron said, we've had a lot of stuff to catch up on and things like that. But I think tightening up what we're doing, and adhering to the things that are already in there, and maybe combined with, like, I like that, like at 9:30, like what's left, right? Like,
Yeah, like making motions to move
and things like that. But I also have grave concerns about anything that being unanimous consent, because one person can throw a wrench in anything. And right now,
I normally wouldn't suggest that.
right now we have majority, and we could all say no, or we could say, yep, we're gonna extend the meeting, and we're gonna extend it by half an hour, and then a half an hour, oh, we didn't finish, like we gotta go another. You know what I mean? But I just think, I think there's a multitude of factors. I think we have, tried to recognize that there are some things that we can specifically put in the policy to like provide for citizens' comments earlier, or to like sure that we're starting on time, even if it means we're going back to executive session. But to put hard and fast times, it just, like, we're not here to review presentations or we're here to do work. And if we limit ourselves in doing the work, then
Well,
we run into a problem.
there actually has been in this, and I don't know how old this is, how many years ago, there is a hard and fast time to end, which is 10 p.m. or 10:30 p.m. in our policy. And Andrew, did you find out, did you interpret that?
Yeah, I don't share the exact same interpretation. I don't.
Okay.
I think the way I read that, and I understand how you're saying it, but the way I read that is the adjournment, which is 10 or 10:30, may be amended. So if someone makes a motion to go past that, we've amended that time of adjournment. I think, I think to be clear.
But if it's unspecified, isn't it then?
Well, that was my point. I think to be clear, if it said
Unlimited.
should be amended to a new specific time, then I think that would be.
I would support that.
I think your argument is plausible, and I've been wrong before. I don't read it the same way.
All right.
But with that said,
could
I think it's a suggestion that is worthy of.
I would be happy to
discussion, yeah.
withdraw my amendment and proffer a new amendment that says a new time for adjournment of any school committee may be amended by a majority consent of the school committee members present. A new time, it will be the operative, which I had in my amendment, but I had unanimous consent.
Yeah.
If we strike with a, maybe make people happy here in terms of not unanimous, but then say how about a new specific time for adjournment of any
Yeah,
meeting
like the
may be
amendment.
amended.
The amendment should be specific.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say
But
time,
I also
but I
think
would
we
say
should be done by a certain time. I think, like
Yeah, it should be done by 10. That would be the
yes,
goal.
we should be, but I'm saying we're extending it like 11 because we've had some really late meetings and we can't make good decisions then.
Yeah,
Now get
I
Blair.
would say
That was
though,
Barrington?
on the
Yeah,
ones,
I'm
I would say
Barrington.
Ken though, and there's so many variables that got us there. The ones that were really long, there's usually a reason for it, and it's usually not because we're talking about things that are not urgent. Like in my, I could go back and I don't have time to do it, but it's not that we're just sitting there talking about like there's certain things that either happened in that meeting that got us there, or we need to finish so that you all can do the work that you need to do, whether it's a contract or whether it's whatever. And so I do not disagree. I think 10 o'clock is more than late enough. And I think we've talked about some things that can help the committee be more efficient. I also think we've been trying to give grace with, I was looking the other day at how many administrators we hired over the past year, and it's astounding, right? And so I think to Debbie's point, yes, it would be lovely to get all the agenda attachments on time. Sometimes that's not realistic. Yes, we should be trying to limit the agenda, but sometimes there's a lot of work to be done. So I think it's a combination of variables that can help us get to the goal of finishing by 10 at the latest. But I do think putting in something about the motion being specific, and I don't think it always has to be a time. It could just be an item. It could be just a specific thing.
I just from practice, I think when you get into items, that gets a little more dicey, a little more sticky wicket. But if we say a time, how much time we need to? Well, let's set an hour more to do it. Let's set a half hour more.
Yeah.
So I think a new time for adjournment of any meeting may be
specific
amended
time.
by a majority consent of the school committee members present. Andrew, you think that could work?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I'll make that motion.
I was trying to find Barrington.
So just to clarify, because we're in first read, I'm happy to call a question on this, but do we even need to, or can Jim
No,
just
I'll
give
just make the
suggestions?
If you
changes
want to go
to
back
that.
and make that change and bring
And
it
we can
forward to
make it
second
and bring
read,
it
that's
forward.
fine as well.
If Jen,
Yeah.
she will do it, I am assuming. But if she did it, you could amend it next time you see it. But I think we don't even need to take a vote on it today. I think we could just make those changes.
I think that's
Take second.
that'd be a positive first step.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we also put in here enforcing that people submit agenda items, the week before the meeting by,
It's already in there.
Yeah, that's already in there. It's actually
We already have the.
12 days for an item to be considered and 7 days for discussion.
But that we hold to that. That if somebody submits on the 13th day, we tell them, sorry, you missed the deadline, we'll put it on the
That's
agenda
usually-
for the next meeting after that.
That's usually not.
I think it's the issue of the size of the agenda.
It's usually not the issue. Sometimes the issue is, and Ken, correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, the issue is the amount of information that goes with the item. So a lot of times we'll know an item, but and sometimes we add things late because things come up, et cetera. But usually especially for committee requests, it's not, those can get on, but whatever needs to be created, and then with them having competing priorities of things coming up and then not being able to get to things that they thought they were going to be able to get to in a week, it's a quick turnaround. By the time you make the agenda, they have 5 business days to turn around whatever that is. And so I think that's another consideration that the superintendent and the chair can make, is thinking about, like, how much work will take it. And Ken and I sometimes have those discussions, Rob is present as well, but like, hey, there's no way we can get those attachments ready. Like, yeah, you can put that agenda item on, but there's no way. And so I think that's a piece of it too, of trying to do it. But I also think in year 2 of this administration, like, it will be easier because they have staff to do things. They have more things in place that we're not starting from scratch. So I think, Debbie, to your point, it's holding to it. But also I think the moments when we had to have, like, we were trying to get back on track in the exceptions that we made.
If we can include what I just mentioned as
Yeah.
as a possible amendment into the next language for
Yeah.
consideration on the second reading, then I could support this as an interest of compromise. I think that's a good first step.
What was I didn't hear the full committee's thoughts on the language that was proposed about the 1 hour for citizens' comments. Did anyone else have additional feedback for the policy committee on that one?
Other than I think if we limit the actual presentations, the time limit
Yeah.
for the presentations, that it's, they can submit the full 50 pages of their PowerPoint or whatever, but they only
Okay.
give us
To read
what's
all 50
access.
pages.
It's
Right.
our job to
Can't
read
read
them,
them.
as long as they submit them in time,
Well,
not
so,
the day of.
yeah, what that meant to me was,
Yeah.
say, if we're saying no longer than an hour, right, citizens' comments, our goal is to start an hour after the open meeting, then, if we knew we had 3 presentations, Dr. Du would be able to say to people, like, hey, you only have X amount each. Like, because we have this many presentations and we have to be done within an hour because we want to do, and so it would kind of give that sense. And then it also would give people a sense of when they would need to be here. Obviously, people can submit citizens' comments in other ways to us too, because I know it's not, like, that might not be, even an hour might not be realistic to stay for something. But I do feel very strongly that hearing the presentations before making comments is important, because we've seen the opposite of that, where people have made comments and then I see the administrators come up and present, and you can see the people's faces, all their questions were answered in that piece, and we spent time on questions that would have already gotten answered. So I'm comfortable with the hour piece, staying as is, but I do understand, like, the goal would be sooner, right? Like, tonight, it was 10 minutes, and then we were on to citizens' comments.
So you think that you would be amenable to the change I outlined recently? A new time of adjournment?
Oh yeah, that one.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I was
I
making
wasn't
sure to
sure.
circle back on the other one that you had, so that we could make sure to get committee voice on it.
I would still like to ask the policy subcommittee if they'll just look at the language that Barrington.
Yeah,
proposed.
I'll go back.
before we bring it back.
Just go back and try it.
because-
Was it a
Yeah.
policy or was it in their bylaws, Rob? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I looked in their organizing documents and how
I'll find it as we go through, and I'll email it to you, Jen.
because that's also a more definitive
Yep.
stopping
Mhm.
point.
It is as an item, but you don't know how long that item goes for. So by specifying a time
do both.
specific, then you basically say, okay, now we know our parameter, how long we were able to discuss this.
So-
And then, but you could extend it again, actually hypothetically.
Yeah.
I think I understand where we're trying to go.
'Cause any
here,
item could be so long.
I'd say we move
Well,
this
we have a
on.
meeting too,
Yeah.
right? We have a policy meeting in between.
We have a policy meeting on Monday.
Yeah. Okay, any other
This is
comments
not
on
on
this?
the agenda, I'm not gonna bring it back to the policy advisory committee for this though, but we'll do the second read here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you, as chair of that committee, you and Mr. Hennessy will look at the Barrington language
Yeah,
that
yeah,
Rob was
yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
and
I'm going to
just
send it to you right now,
incorporate
Jen.
it.
Yep.
All right, Dr. Duva, Rob, anything on that? Okay, done with this one, we'll move on to E. IE.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to discuss scheduling of district events.
Second.
So this is the first read of an existing policy that goes along with this list that we updated based on the discussions around which days the policy should be in effect for. I had to make changes based on the changes we made to this list. What we just discussed will not change the revisions that are in here, and we will see this policy one more time before voting on it.
Any questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, we can move on to JICD. Can I have a motion?
I'm gonna make a motion to approve JICD physical restraint.
Second.
So this is the second read of an existing policy that's been updated based on a mediation agreement that the district is a party to, and to ensure we're following best practices. The majority of this policy is directly from state regulations. The Policy Advisory Committee did add language to cover what happens when a restraint is performed by someone who's not an NKSD employee, i.e. first responders, and how that is communicated when it occurs on school grounds. We also discussed how this policy pertains to bus personnel, and that's going to have to be a continuing discussion. At this time, I'm recommending approval.
Any questions or discussion on this?
We had had conversation about these things.
At the last meeting.
Yeah, this is the second read, so it's just if anyone has any. And then I would say, I think I said this last time, but lots of good feedback from the administration, particularly the director of student
Student
services.
services, yes. Lots, yes.
All right. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then,
And I'm gonna make a motion to delete JICDR.
Second.
So this is just the procedure that had gone along with the policy, but we've now combined the two, and now that we've approved the updates to JICD, this one can be sunsetted, so at this time I'm recommending deletion.
okay, any questions regarding that? Again, that's to really try to streamline things, to not have community members or staff or administration have to go to multiple different policies, and also for the school committee not to have to make changes in multiple places. So that's just part of that, kind of trying to streamline our policies to make them easier, more easily digestible by the community that's affected by them. Okay, hearing none, I'll make.
Can I make a motion
Yeah.
to move? Because I believe
Wait,
we
we
have.
have to vote.
We have-
Oh, okay.
Hold
Never
on,
mind.
hold
All
on.
right.
Too excited. Can we vote on that one, please? All those in favor of deleting JICDR, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Case?
I believe we might have some bus contractors in the back, and I know they have to get up early in the morning, so I was wondering if we could move B up to now.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we'll move, under new business, it was bus contract extension. So we'll move that one up. Can we get a motion for that one?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Dr. Duba, any context you want to provide the community?
So,
No is an okay answer. It was discussed in executive session.
Yeah.
Okay. So all those in favor of approving the 2 bus contract extensions that are in front of us today, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you so much. They've said bus contractors, people that are in the audience, you can vote. Apologies for the delay.
I think they're staying also.
I know, that's fine too.
Fell
but-
asleep. I think.
Yeah. Very good, Philip. Okay. Is it G?
Aye, I think.
There's like many choices. It's G, right?
It's G.
Oh, G for the other.
Just the representative
Yep.
for that.
Yeah, letter G.
Yeah.
That's what they're here for as well.
Just want to move that to the top of the agenda?
I'll make
a
a
motion.
I'll second.
I'll second or make a motion on that.
Yeah.
You make
Alright,
it, I'll
so-
second.
All right,
You got that, Joni?
So Jim and
I made the
they made it to
motion.
move. All
Yep.
those in favor of
Offset.
moving it, say aye.
Aye.
Now can I get a motion
To
to?
discuss.
Yeah.
Well, so we need a motion, or somebody can make a.
Motion to approve.
It's
But
you
we're
don't
on
have a.
G, right?
Yeah.
I nominate you. I make a motion. You're the only one who we know for sure is gonna be here.
Oh,
I mean-
okay. So
Second.
I'll second
that.
okay, that is a fair
We have a
point.
motion and a second.
So we have a motion and a second for.
I mean, we can always change
No,
it.
I
right?
just
Yeah.
so that's fine. So that's a motion.
You
I
can
just had a
step down.
clarifying question, Dr. Duva, for what you would be. It says representatives, plural. So is your goal to have 2 school committee members on the negotiation team?
My goal was to have 2,
Yep.
and that way if one person's absent,
Yep.
there's someone else that's there. I know that seats may change come
Yep.
January. We could always make a change later, but we are looking to start negotiations soon.
Yep, Andrew. For like legality purposes, if we just have one to get it started, is that
That's
fine?
ab-
And
that's
then
absolutely
post
fine.
the,
Yep.
the next meeting, we could approve.
Yeah, you can add another member at the next, after the election, that's fine.
Okay.
Would that change during the reorganization? Like if Aaron being on there now,
Yeah, they would
and
have
then
to-
it would change it.
Yeah, I'd
Maybe
have to
the-
double
the
check
new
your
committee would
bylaws,
vote
but I
on it.
believe when the new committee comes in, the chair appoints, or,
We-
right, it's
something.
chair appoints
Yeah,
the
to new
subcommittees,
negotiate-
and if the
negotiating
negotiating
committees,
subcommittee's a
yeah.
member of that, then the chair may change
There's
that,
like
but
a
that,
long
Yeah.
series
but
of
I still
votes.
wouldn't stop
But
doing what you're
the
doing now.
Negotiations is not a subcommittee. though.
Yeah, it's not a subcommittee,
Yeah.
so that one's a little
Negotiations.
different.
So then, yeah.
Happy for someone else to do it. No worries there. But I'm happy to. I'm happy to be on it. I think
We
the
did assign
negotiations are
people
important.
to the negotiating committee at the last biennial organization, like that was
Yeah.
one of the ones that we
Yeah.
went through.
We did.
We assign 2 people to it, and then if one isn't reelected, put one of the
You
new.
can do that as well. I mean,
committee.
you're serving members.
So many choices.
'Cause I honestly would like to be on that committee.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, wait, you can't make a motion while we have a motion open.
Yeah, was we vote on the
What if
first
you
one?
put to make a motion?
You could
for
amend the
two?
motion.
Okay,
Right.
I'll withdraw
Make a
my
motion.
I'll
motion,
withdraw my motion.
and I'll make a
Alright.
motion to nominate
It's okay, they're fine.
Erin and Debbie.
So
Second.
both motions got withdrawn, Joni,
Yeah.
and then we have a new motion to nominate myself and Debbie to be the representatives on the Bus Driver Association contract negotiations. Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then we'll check on what needs to or not needs to be on the agenda for the biannual,
Yep.
which is fine.
You want to do the next one as well? Yes.
Good suggestion.
Or do F while you're discussing this, because it's a similar.
I'd like to, I make the motion to move item F to the top of the agenda.
Is that just because of, it makes sense, or is it because?
Well, there's no one here,
Yeah.
but I think it makes sense.
Alright, let's do
because
that
we're
one, but then
talking,
let's
because
go
we're going
back
to
and
have
do
the
things
same
in order, so I
conversation.
don't.
Okay,
lose
similar
my mind.
thematic.
So we have a motion to move ESP
Negotiations at the top.
negotiations to next, and then do we have a second for that?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then we need a motion for it.
I would make the motion to nominate the chair and Deb.
I would,
No, I withdraw that one, just
okay,
trying to make it a little light.
I would say maybe
Unless you want
putting someone,
else.
this is all imaginary. What's the timeline for this one, Ken?
Same thing, we're
Yeah.
we're looking at
Yeah.
starting both negotiations as soon as we can, both associations have written to
Yeah.
us requesting dates. Our HR director has already been trying to look at dates, but I told her to wait because we didn't know who the school committee reps
Yeah.
would be. So we'd be doing both negotiations simultaneously,
In the month of November.
starting around
I think that's December,
So,
right?
Does
School
anyone else
committee's
have
fine.
expressed, like Debbie expressed interest in being on the other one? Does anyone have expressed interest in being on the ESP one?
Are they gonna meet before December?
we're hoping to,
Okay.
because we really
Jim, are
want
you
to start this
interested?
process.
Ooh. I'm a short timer here.
Oh, I mean, I'll do it.
I think we,
I've been
Deb
on
said she was.
negotiation committees before with staff and
Robert,
faculty.
you interested?
No, I'm happy to do it if nobody else wants to.
Rob and Debbie, yeah.
Yeah, all right, there we go.
Right, who wants to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to nominate both of them,
Second.
Bob and Deb.
Okay. And again, we'll check on what happens at the biennial or
Right.
whatever, but that could at least get us started. Debbie, you sure, timeline wise, you're able to do both? Okay, any further discussion on that one? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Thank you so much. Okay, now we're gonna go back up in order, if people don't mind. So we
Stage 2 update.
had gotten through, what?
No,
Aye.
I'm just looking to see. They're
They
fine
want
now.
aye.
Okay,
They
they're
love
fine.
our meetings, they
They just want to
it's
stay.
fun.
Okay.
Yep, so the next item on the agenda is the stage 2 update, and so, can we get a motion to discuss?
Oh, I thought we were going back up to the top, are we not?
Oh, no, top meeting was.
Oh,
Stage
okay.
two's next.
We went back to where we.
No, you're right.
I
Aye.
guess I didn't turn the page, I saw
Oh.
it.
I was like,
Let it aye.
I was at the top of
Okay.
this page.
Sorry, stage 2 updates is the bottom of page 3.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to discuss.
Second. I'll second it. Dr. Duva, updates?
Yes,
Stage 2?
yep, the one update I have, we don't have any formal updates from RIDE yet, they're still reviewing everything, but they are requesting additional cost estimates to be done. I've been going back and forth with Jacobs and Rouse regarding that. We knew this was going to be coming up, but the original cost for those to do the
Estimates.
additional estimates was going to be $67,000. So we really pushed off on that. They also looked for a new estimator that they could use. That got down to 20, which got down to 18, and we have an agreement with Rouse that they will pay 10, and the school department is paying 8. So this is just for information. It's under the 9,000, but it's something that we do have to have completed for RIDE with the stage 2. We will be able to get it done. We were just going back and forth with cost and who the estimator would be. The original estimator retired, and that's why they're out looking for a new estimator. And that's through them. That's through the vendor, not through us.
Can you
so-
clarify which vendor for me? Sorry.
So through Rouse.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
yeah, so Rouse hires the estimator, so we don't have to go out to.
So the original
RFP.
67,000 number came from Rouse via their old estimator.
No.
Okay.
That was, they brought in a new, their estimator retired, they had someone else, was at 67,000. Inga, through Jacobs, stepped in as the OPM to protect us, and she did her job of saying no, that we are not having them pay, that it's outrageous. We need to get someone else, and they worked together on finding a different estimator that Rouse is taking on, and also, went back and forth with them of like, this needs to be split between the architect and us, and Rouse agreed to that. So they're paying 10,000, and we're paying 3,000.
Mr. Hennessy, we're good as far as purchasing
If
things
it
and all.
sounds like it's Rouse's employee,
Yeah.
Rouse's contractor,
Yeah.
which is what we
All right,
intend.
just wanted to hear you say that out loud.
To clarify, this is only for the CIP portion,
This
not
is
the
just,
middle
yes, I'm sorry, I should have, yes, thank you, I should have.
I just want to
said
clarify that
Yes,
for
yes,
the
yes.
public too.
So
for
Rouse
everybody.
Architects is doing the capital improvement portion, so these are the detailed cost estimates for the
Yeah.
CIP projects.
The original goal, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, is that we were hoping to do this work after the vote. And we knew we would have to provide this information, but I think our goal was hoping that we would be able to get RIDE to agree to letting us have it happen after the vote, because if it happens after the vote, it could be built into the bond. But that was not the case, and so we need to move forward on it prior to.
And they need it in order to finish the work
Yeah.
they're doing at their level.
Are they re-estimating everything?
No, so it's not that they're re-estimated, it's like getting into the details of like the individual like supplies and materials, and it's a more detailed cost estimate.
So we don't expect the number to change, we just expect it to get it
No,
fleshed out?
we don't expect it,
Okay.
it's just breaking it down of why is this X
Yeah, like
number
giving
this.
them back.
and
So
breaking
this
it
is
down.
made up of 10 of these,
Yes.
and that's why it's 20 or whatever, right?
Can you just clarify, Ken, where the 8,000 is
Yeah,
coming from?
8,000 is going to come from our budget. We have funds set aside for capital work that we've had to do for buildings if there's emergencies or anything like that. So we take 8,000 from there for now.
From the operating budget.
Yeah.
Can you the question had kind of come up in the forum last night, but then didn't really sort of, can you just like clarify that where we are in the approval, like, we haven't gotten approval yet, but that's like normal in the process, it's not.
Yeah, this is very normal
Yep.
that we're still waiting, right? So they're reviewing all of the documents. They'll continue reviewing the documents when we provide them these additional detailed estimates. They'll review that, and then they will come back to us and say, here's where we are. This is what we're looking at. This looks good. We'd like you to provide more detail on these schematic designs or the work that you're doing here. And it's a back and forth until you get that letter of approval.
So just to clarify, we got all of our information in by September 15th.
We got everything in
Yeah.
on time.
And it is very normal that RIDE has not gotten back to us,
Yes.
and that there's no way that we could have sped up that timeline with anything that we could have done.
No.
Thank you for clarifying. Any other questions regarding?
We hadn't missed any deadlines either.
No. There's
So,
no
I mean,
deadline,
we're in
and
the
there's
time
no
frame that's
deadline
prescribed by
either.
RIDE.
Yeah,
RIDE.
it's RIDE's
It's
time
on
frame
the
doesn't,
fact-
RIDE's time frame doesn't align with the voting schedule. Like, that's really what it comes down to, and I understand why people would question that, but I also understand that, like, that's not, there's nothing, we could not have submitted before, like, the September 15th
And
date
having
is the September 15 date, it was connected to the February 15 date, RIDE prescribes those, that's it. Like,
Having a bond does not reflect when you get your
Yeah.
stage 2 back. This is all part of that process
Yeah.
of moving forward.
Yeah.
And RIDE wants to work with us to be successful within these projects.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that we are correct, like we are where we're
Yeah.
supposed to be
Yes.
in that process,
We are.
and there's no delay or anything like that,
Yeah.
we're proceeding along.
And I'll add one more thing. Someone made it the other night, made it sound like if the voters vote for the school, somehow we're going to be building the plane as it's taken off the runway. This is how the process works.
This
A,
is-
more importantly, is B, which means we don't have to issue those bonds at all. It's what's called enabling legislation that's required from the General Assembly. The voters approve of it. If they do, they permit the town of North Kingstown to borrow that money at some appropriate time.
Correct.
Or they don't have to.
Correct. And like we said
If
last
they
night,
do it
we have
before the
stage
school
2,
and the capital group.
then we go on to stage 3, right?
Yeah.
And there's multiple steps in this process, and this is the process. And I've been through it before. I think others have been through it before. It is a lengthy process that you're going through while we're moving forward with the designs, the schematic designs, the developmental design. I mean, it's all part of it.
Any other questions about stage 2
Update, like the application, where we are, anything like that? Okay.
Hearing done, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Can I get a motion to discuss? Is there a second? Okay, so this was just to get an update on public outreach of the school bond. I know it's important for the school committee that we try to get the word out to community members about the current bond and what we're doing, and so wanted to give Dr. Duva an opportunity to give us an update and have the committee be able to offer any suggestions that we might be able to do in the next couple of weeks. So, Dr. Duva, you want to give us kind of just an outline of what we've done so far?
Sure. Yeah, I put a newsletter out. I wrote a letter to the editor. We've been posting some on Facebook, and we have some other posts that we're going to be putting out. We held the public forum last night. We have the tours that are set up, and we have an FAQ document we're going to get out this week as well. So if there's other suggestions.
I know a lot of people have been asking about the FAQ, so I appreciate that
Yes,
is coming shortly.
Yep.
And I like the fact that you said you were going to email that out to the community along with a copy
once
of
we get the video and
video.
presentation,
Like that's good. The communication that went out about the bond information and the public forum was kind of buried in the district newsletter. So if you didn't open that newsletter, you didn't get the information. So I would like it if it would be possible to send out a bond specific newsletter from the district with that information so that people have it, because not everybody, no offense, I know people read my newsletters, they probably don't need yours, so it just, so that people see that it's specific to that
Yeah, I
issue.
can take that out and we'll send that out separately.
If I'm not mistaken too, though, you spoke to the 2 local papers. I think they
Yeah.
carried the story,
Yeah, they
both
did.
of the Standard
They
Times, Independent, about when that meeting
And
would
we
be.
had the flyer.
Oh no,
was
we
in the
definitely
paper.
I 100%
Yes.
know
It wasn't
that
adver- it was
the
in the
information was out
flyer.
there. I
Yeah.
also
Right.
don't disagree with Jen that sending out
No, that's not a-
correspondence.
that's
Yeah,
still a valid
but I
point.
do
It's
think
still
we
a
had it
valid
out there. I think
Yeah,
you're
it
right.
was
Wasn't
out
like it
there.
was
We
just
also, we sent out a
Yeah.
reminder as
Yeah.
well, specific to that.
We did a
So
Facebook
we've
post.
we've been putting it out there. So
Yeah, but I do agree with Jen that the one thing that's really important for me, especially with the fact that we have been evolving the plans over the 2 years that I've been on the school committee for the bonds, is making sure that people are voting on the accurate information. That is really, I think, our biggest job is just making sure they understand what it is, what it's going to, so that they can make an educated decision about it. And I think because we had a different one at the last election, and then we had a different plan before that, I do think anything we can do to help clarify that for the community is really helpful and important. So I think Jen's idea of sending out something specific about it so that it's really up in front of folks would be helpful, and I like that idea of sending the video and the FAQs kind of as a cohort. I did notice, Ken, some people, even today when I went to the building tour, they couldn't find it. And not that it's not on the website, but that when you go to the website,
what
there's...
can't they find?
I'll tell you in 1 second. I have no internet. So on the website, on the NKSD website, there's 2 different ways to navigate our website, and they were on their phones. But the first one is when you look at the main page. You have to click. So the school facility projects, yeah.
Yeah, so it's right there
So,
on the top. So
on your computer,
Yeah,
on the
your
phone,
computer.
Yeah,
On your
the phone is tricky.
yeah.
the phone
On your
looks
phone, they
different. You
kept
have to go
getting
to
brought.
Explore.
Yeah, but
So
on
you
the phone
click
you
it.
kept having to go. They kept getting brought to the school improvement plans. The way that because it says something about school improvement, and so they were clicking on that because that was the thing that they could see, and it was bringing them to that page. And so I was thinking one of
So
two
we
things.
do have a school improvement plan page, and we have school
Yeah.
facility project
Yeah.
page.
But on your phone, the thing that made most sense, 2 different families did it with me, and they both did the same thing. And so just looking at that and seeing if we could either put a link to redirect them from that SIT page, or figure out a way so that they don't have to click on Explore first, just so that they could find the information. Because both of these were families that cared enough to go to the tour, were trying to get more information. One of them had gotten your flyer at the open house, but wanted to see it electronically, and they were not getting there easily. So I thought we could
So when I open up on your
Yep.
phone, because I want to make sure I understand
Yep.
So I'm on my phone. You see Explore, and under it has school committee, departments, school facility projects, families, students, staff, about us, community.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have school improvement plans.
But before they get to Explore, they have to click on Explore to see that drop
Right.
down. Yeah,
So
they
you
see
want-
that.
you want it
Yeah,
up there?
it-
So the
it-
very-
it's this. It's the
They see that
Same.
school
Yeah, I
improvement
was gonna
plan
say at
one.
the top you have
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Put it up there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
gotten
well,
me a
obvious
few
one.
times too, yeah.
Yeah. Or redirect it from that school improvement plan link.
Well, I don't want to do that because that might, we'll
You,
figure out.
you
how to-
understand the problem.
Or
So
just
I
special
trust you to
window.
figure out the solution,
Yeah,
but
well,
to have
it's-
see two
it's
different
the-
families
it's-
independently.
It's the top bar up here, that's
Yeah,
what
I
you see
know.
on your phone,
I
so
know.
we can reorganize the top bar.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Even a separate hyperlink that's just pretty boldface in different color or something.
I think for the next 2 weeks, if
Great.
you just put it up in that other one too, that's great.
And
that
come
will be
down after.
awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or thoughts about public outreach? It sounds like we have more tours that might be booked for next week.
I think more people find out about this new plan, this new proposal, the better off we are, because it's a sound proposal.
Any other suggestions from the committee on how to get the words out? Josh, any ideas? Sorry to put you on the spot, but I bet you have one.
I think, engaging high school voters who are 18 and like getting more information out to them.
Yep.
We need to.
Yep. We know in the emails that we send out, is that full
I'll just
district?
send
Does it go to
direct-
students?
I'll just send something directly to the students.
To the high school students? Okay, that's a great idea. And then I wonder if we could even put up a flyer in the high school, like an informational flyer? Informational.
We already handed it out at the high school.
It's in vote voting.
Oh.
No, yeah, but informational.
Josh, where in the high school would be the best spot to put something so they see it? I mean, I
Um,
see flyers hanging, but I'm just thinking like, is there somewhere where the kids go to look for that information?
yeah, probably around the spine or like the bulletin boards
Okay.
in the spine hallway.
Kind of that meeting.
Bulletin boards in the spine.
Yeah.
Great. If you have any other ideas, feel free to let Dr. Duba know. Anything else from the committee on that one? Okay, we'll try to get the word out. Okay, moving on to new business. We had an executive, the superintendent review. Can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. One note, just thank Dr. Duba for the hard work this past year, and we appreciate all your efforts. Moving on to
See?
C. I'll make a motion to table.
Second?
Okay, we'll call it, right?
Is that,
Is that?
I thought, and I,
Writing some- which
school
one?
safety plan, that was gonna be accepted with the proposed changes, right?
Yes.
I
You
thought,
want that instead?
well, I think it's gonna be submitted, right?
It has to be.
Okay,
separate.
never mind, I withdraw my.
I'm sorry, I think, that was my recollection, I could be
And I already
mistaken,
started
but I
making
thought,
those changes, so they're.
So move passage with the
I was
changes.
sitting there like,
yeah,
okay.
that's what I thought.
I did it,
What I
I
thought.
thought it was- all right, if that's
So
okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the plans with the revisions that we discussed in
That's what I
executive
thought.
session.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Any further discussion? I would just state that I would like to put them on just for, like, next
To
time,
see,
just to
yeah,
confirm,
yeah.
yeah. So I'll make a note about that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you so much. Item D, can I get a motion?
Move passage. This would add,
Wait, just get a second, quick.
Yep.
Second?
Thank you. Jim, go ahead.
we're adding, I think this is the two students, Ken?
Yes.
Adding the two students to the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee. I move passage.
Okay. Dr. Duba, you want to say anything about the students, or not the specific ones,
Yeah,
but kind of just the process
I just
of,
want to thank
yeah.
Mr. Gormley
There we go.
and Mrs. Tavano from the Business and Finance CTE program for assisting us in selecting students for this. We had a few come forward and based on availability. So I am really excited with the two students that we'll have on the committee representing the high school and the district. They'll offer a lot of good ideas and have that voice there. So.
We'd like to have a couple voices on it, and students is good, committee.
Perfect. Any questions or discussion regarding that? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then item E, can I get a motion for that? Do we have,
She moved pass out second.
I'll just switch the Okay, so we have the attachment of the members, and so we have a motion to accept these and a second. Any questions regarding the members for the Health and Wellness Advisory Committee? I just had one. I just wanted to make sure that someone had checked that we were in compliance with what the law said as far as, like, I know this one is specific about different types of people that need to be on it, both from a professional lens and a community lens, so this list is in compliance with that. Okay, perfect. Just a small, no, actually that's not. Okay. Any other questions regarding this? I guess.
But I would like to thank Josh for volunteering to be our student member.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Did this go through the same application process that the other advisories did?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the committee as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. And then next item on the agenda is can we get a motion for H?
Make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay, and so this is, we had asked Dr. Duva to come up with a purpose, duties and goals, et cetera, and committee makeup for the redistricting, start times, and transportation advisory committee, which we shall call RSTTA. No, we'll come up with a shorter acronym for it.
I think we should just call it redistricting committee, knowing we're going to work on all of those other.
The RTT, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
It'll come organically.
It's too long. I really think it should just be, it's a redistricting committee, that's what the district has called it in the past, and part of that we have in the goals and what we're
I do think, for me, I don't disagree with you, but also I do think acknowledging the asks from particularly the students regarding the start times, like in the title, is important because it allows them to know that we're taking it seriously and that we're hearing them. So although it is a ridiculously long title for a advisory committee, I do think that is, it helps them know.
I know, but I also think it's explained throughout the document, and I think having long titles just makes it more complicated for people. But we'll respect it and we'll keep it.
Okay. So, with that said, does anybody have any questions regarding the document as presented for the purpose, the duties and goals? Does it achieve what the school committee was hoping this temporary advisory committee would do, or questions regarding the advisory committee makeup?
My only question was, I see that you list a high school student, but I don't see anything about a middle school student.
We can add middle school students to it. I just, looking at our advisories, usually we're going to the high school, having high school students there. I think, just thinking of like permissions from families and all, age-wise, I think developmentally it's appropriate for high school students to be honest. I think if we want to hear from other students, we can look at how we can send out
survey
ways to get feedback from them or hold focus groups at the school levels. But I mean, we could add most if we want. I just thought thinking what's developmentally appropriate for this.
I guess I'm struggling to understand what isn't developmentally appropriate about, like, school start times for them.
It's not that. I'm just thinking of the committee, of what time we're going to hold the committee, time of night, and just that's,
yeah, I get it.
just
But
trying to be considerate of
if we could put it out there, because I think especially like the middle school students who are heading into high school, like, may have some, contributions to make in that area. And if nobody can make it because of availability, then nobody can make it. But and then you can go the other ways. But at least we put it out there because we put it out there for the other advisory committees as well. So
I think we have some middle schoolers on some of them too.
yeah.
But I think Ken's point, I think as long as the voice gets in there, I'm fine with it either way. Whether they're permanent members or we're just intentionally getting information from them. So I could support either perspective. Other feedback on it? So to outline the duties and goals, balancing enrollment is one of the goals that the advisory committee would be look at. Community engagement. Just making sure that folks are involved. Accessibility. future growth, minimize disruption, and then the short-term goal would be recommending something for the 25-26 year, and then the long-term goal would be addressing to create balanced enrollment and efficiencies.
Do we want to put a time in there for the short-term goal? Like short-term, like
when the recommendation would be expected by the committee?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might help us keep on track. Dr. Duva, do you have any suggestions of what's in your head that we want you all to put in?
I would say by April, because we also want to consider if there's any budget.
Is it too late?
The budget's already been approved in April.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm saying that way we can then go through the process, have the budget's approved, and then we can put our, these are the goals that we're recommending. Right, I'm just thinking process, right, that we'll have goals, but I'm saying like to have them finalized.
So if you
I also want to be realistic.
Yeah.
We have a lot of advisory committees. We have 2 negotiations. There's a lot happening. The calendar is pretty full, and now we're adding another very important advisory committee on with work that we need to focus in on around the southern end of town, around Hamilton specifically right now. And to me, that's my short-term goal, is really focusing on what's happening at that
That's the
school
one I'm
next
talking
year.
about, is the short-term goal,
Right.
not the long-term.
Right, but that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying too. Like, I think by April's reason, well,
When does kindergarten registration start?
well, kindergarten just starts January. I don't know if we'd have a recommendation by January
Right.
at this point.
I think that's my
So,
biggest
that might
concern,
be-
is like to alleviate this. Not saying we're going to have an issue with kindergarten this year, but it seems like we have for the past few years. And so if a recommendation, putting the budgetary considerations aside, if a recommendation doesn't even come forward.
Why
on the
don't we
advisory
shoot for
committee.
February?
At least a preliminary one perhaps, and then it could always be revised, but I think that might at least give us a sense of if there are any budgetary impacts. One thing that I noticed was that a lot of the bulleted goals were very focused on the redistricting, and there wasn't anything specific about the start time or the transportation piece as far as like efficiencies and stuff. So I was curious if we could just add or call out 1 or 2 bullets. I know they're all connected, but I do think it's important to spell those out in the list. Like they all seemed really focused on redistricting, and so that was one of my thoughts. Other suggestions or comments? Committee, central office. Was it intentional not to have a school committee member on the advisory?
No.
Okay.
It's just like the.
What's that they would be the co-chair?
Where?
In the document.
Doesn't it?
Oh, way up the top.
Yeah,
Okay.
It doesn't list, it says.
Yeah,
it needs
it's okay,
additional
thank you.
members.
Okay,
Yeah.
never mind, I can stand corrected, sorry. Yeah.
No, it
No,
was-
I just was reading the bottom part, I didn't, I was on the second page, not the first page. All right, yeah, so there would be 1 as the co-chair, that makes sense. All right, any other thoughts or recommendations on this one? If not, I'm comfortable approving it, knowing that Ken will make those adjustments, so that it can get advertised and we can get moving. So we had a motion to, do we have a motion to approve?
No, motion to discuss.
All right, so we need 1.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Did you mean with the amended changes in?
Yes, with
Yeah.
the amended
With the
changes.
amendment, I'll second that.
Okay, perfect. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for doing that important work. We'll move on to item I.
Make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay. Dr. Jiva, do you want to explain this one? The minibus purchases?
So we have the opportunity right now to purchase 2 new minibuses for our fleet. Ms. Holm is here as well, that she can add to any of this discussion. But we do have a need with our current fleet that we have that's aging out. A lot of mileage that are on the buses, as well as maintenance repairs that are needed to be replaced. We as a district, we need to put together a transportation fleet plan of how we're going to be purchasing future buses in the future. And that's something that we're going to present as part of our budget process this year. But the opportunity has come that there are minibuses available through one of the vendors. It's Anderson Bluebird Bus Sales. They are on the Sourcewell Consortium of approved contracts for us to use and to purchase from. It's unusual to have buses available right now that you can get, and that's why we wanted to put this forward to you and get approval to move forward. It would be a lease-to-own program. The cost of each minibus is $100,488. That is discounted a little bit for us. So the total for the two buses would be $200,976. Currently, we have $66,018 assigned to fleet upgrades through the town capital fund. That we were purchasing 2 vans last year. We were only able to purchase 1, so this is the remaining balance. So we will be able to use those funds to put forward with the lease. And then the remaining balance of $134,958, we will have, that we would have to continue paying moving forward. And we can, look at that and we're anticipating a surplus with FY24. We can, then identify those funds to use for the remaining difference, or we would budget that in the future budget. But we do have funds available now to start this lease program.
The memo from Leslie says 2. The thing from the people say 1. It's 2?
So it is, yes. So what they did was, so they actually have 4 available. But
we
it's
can't
the same.
afford
We're not buying 4. We're not buying 4. So what happened was purchased by another district, and they're no longer purchasing them. So that invoice is it's the same bus. It's the same exact makeup of the bus. So that's why it would be 2 of that bus that was put forward in the packet.
But if you want to buy 4, Jen, you can.
Yeah, I do not want to buy 4, thank you.
And we could. We
They
need
might want us to buy 4. She's shaking her head like, that's,
I just have a question on the vehicle description. It says that there's no handicap door on these buses. No handy door?
Well, I know you put up to the
Maybe I'm
mic,
reading that
Michelle,
wrong.
and that way you can explain.
Give to Richard.
They're just not wheelchair accessible. Our entire fleet is wheelchair accessible, which takes out, for each wheelchair, we lose 6 seats. So going this route, we can actually just transport more students, 29, up to 29 of them. We've had, on bus 66 and 51 even, we've put, like during the summer, we had it at like 25 students. So this makes it a little bit easier because all of our other buses are wheelchair accessible. We don't need that many wheelchair vehicles in this district.
All our other minibuses, right? Not big.
Yeah, all of our minibuses. Yeah, we're just talking about minibuses.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have how many of those that are accessibility?
12.
12 that all have wheelchair, and these
Yes.
2 would not.
Correct.
2 of those mini buses you said met the time frame to be retired. So we'll be losing 2 handicap accessible buses.
So we would have 10. We still theoretically don't even need 10.
Just augmenting the fleet with more capacity.
Absolutely.
I think Debbie's point is valid too, though. Like I see what you're saying, Debbie, about like that balance and paying attention to it.
So we would have a total of 12.
10 vehicles if we're going to retire 2. If we're going to retire 2, we would have 10 vehicles with wheelchair accessibility.
And then we have 2 that don't, and those
Correct.
buses could take on more students.
Correct.
Could help us transport our students out of district and relieve our number of students we'll be transporting through statewide, which then would be a savings for us as well.
Correct.
If
Mhm.
I'm thinking like,
and with the van coming as well.
In the future, yes.
With the van coming as well.
If there's a way to do it.
Absolutely. And you wouldn't have an entire minibus fleet of all wheelchair accessible buses. You wouldn't do that because you just need to offset it. Because you lose capacity.
Now, right?
You lose capacity. You lose a lot of capacity when you do that.
Yeah, but that's what we have now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
That's how they balanced it.
Two questions. So I thought we were moving to vans. The last time we had this conversation, that was the way we were going.
So we were able to get one van right now.
Yes.
Correct.
But I mean, like, moving forward, and I know you talked about fleet upgrades, but will part of that be because that was one of the other things we've been waiting for, is like a plan to get us off statewide, like you just said.
Yeah, I would say that when we, like I said, we want to put a plan together, we can, look at that and say, like, how many buses do we need, how many vans can we get, because also with a van, it's a different license.
Right, you only need a
and
driver
we're able
for
to
that, right,
get
yes.
also more drivers. by
Right,
doing that.
right, and that's why I think I recall we were going towards the van route, because we were struggling to find drivers for the buses, and so the vans would allow us to potentially do that.
Right.
How many
But we also-
seats are there in a van? Like,
It depends.
yeah. I feel
This
like they're
van,
like-
no more than
definitely
8.
less, for
Yeah.
sure,
So
yeah.
it's 8. It is because actually we can only transport 6.
Yeah.
So because you need for the driver and then you need for the aide. So in Rhode
I
Island
mean,
you
it
can have
sounds
more than
like
8.
to me, in a world where it's very hard to get buses right now and very hard to get vans right now and buy vehicles, we have the opportunity to buy ones that are ready. Like, what would the delivery date be on these?
February,
Yeah.
mid-February, early March. They're
Yeah.
expected to come in.
So if we were to go another route where we went to a company and we ordered them, like for whatever we wanted, if we wanted more vans or we wanted handicap accessible, wheelchair accessible buses, like, do we know what the turnaround time would be for
1.5 to 2 years at the current time.
I was gonna say, we're still waiting for that van from how long ago?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Hopefully middle of November. That's when I talked to the sales rep today. And these actually already have VIN numbers, which means they're in production. They're being built right now.
So basically retiring 2 and then bringing in 2.
Correct. Correct. Especially with the growth of programs that we have now in the district, to have them is.
And we feel like we'll have bus driver availability because we will be using the bus drivers that we are using for those vans that we are
Correct.
planning on retiring.
Correct.
I think too, though, I'm in support of purchasing it just because I know that we need to modernize our fleet, and I hear what you're saying. I do think, though, to Debbie's point, like in the fleet plan that we will get, I think just making sure that there's not a situation where we don't have enough wheelchair accessible vehicles, and that we can look at, what we need as a district using data, and then see if 10 is enough, and if it's not, have that be a priority in the next, like that would be the one that I would want to prioritize next, to make sure that we have that accessibility, transportation, I don't ever want to get to a situation where we're like, oh man, we wish we hadn't bought these ones and we had bought something else.
That's my fear, is that hindsight, we're gonna say we should have held on to that money and gotten the handicapped ones, because we're seeing more influx of students, if I'm not correct, but of students meeting those requirements. Although now 10 might meet the requirement, 2 years from now, are we gonna be like, why didn't we just get the handicap right away?
The buses wouldn't be there anyways, so we'd still be waiting for them to come in.
I'm just saying.
A year and a half.
I don't want to kick myself.
Do you know the current use of wheelchairs for the buses we have? Let's say there's 10 left.
I'm trying to think. 1,
20
2, 3, 4. 4. That's what I thought. 4. We have 4 students that we transport.
So 4 students over 10 buses.
Correct.
What's the capacity of each bus per? How many
It varies.
Is it like, could you fit 3 students with wheelchairs on one bus, or one per?
You can fit 2
Two
on
per.
some of the buses, because some of them have the tie downs in the floor,
Yeah.
and some of them don't. Some of them have.
So we
those
could have up to
tie downs.
capacity of 16 students who are in wheelchairs. The
No.
capacity, but we only have 4.
Well, it would depend geographically on where they're going to school as well, correct? So that all comes into play. Right now, we have 4 with 10 vehicles, and
We're also assuming
we
they all
obviously...
have to go to the same school at the same time, like in
Right.
In a perfect world.
Yeah, but it's actually better if they don't, like if you have an elementary
Correct.
school student
Right,
and a high
then you
school
change
student,
buses,
you'd be
yeah.
utilizing that bus twice. And so what I also think that this does is, if we're having 2 buses come in with 24 seats each, then we're able to be more nimble, which then would open up opportunities to be able, like, you wouldn't then also have to transport other students on those buses that might need to be doing different routes to pick up students that.
Or you
have
could do a
those
field
issues.
trip with one of these smaller, with a small class.
Correct. And with these buses right here, with the growth of our early learning center, our preschool, these are wonderful because these all have the integrated seats.
They sound great
So,
for late buses too.
I'm sorry?
Late transportation too, maybe? Like
Late buses, yeah, we've used our mini buses for, to assist in that. But the fact that these all have integrated seats is huge.
Yep. Can you explain that to us just for
The built-in car seats for the preschoolers, for the 3-year-olds and the 4-year-olds that need them.
Great. Other questions on this?
Do these have the child detection thing where they have to go to the back, hit the button? 'Cause I didn't see it in the list. I
Yeah.
saw child detection 8-way, but I believe that's outside the bus.
Yep, they all of the new vehicles have them.
Okay, I just want to double check. Thank you.
Andrew, from a purchasing standpoint, this is unusual.
It's on the,
It's on the
Dr. Dewey would
MPA.
probably say, it's not on the MPA, but
Right.
it is on a consortium that we're a member of, so we're.
Yep.
Sourcewell. Yep, I
Yep.
researched.
So
for it
that's
today.
fine.
Yep.
The document that came from our administration outlined the lease, but we would need that documentation from the actual company,
Yeah,
right?
so we need to get that from the bank.
Yeah,
We
that
don't have
usually
the-
comes from a financing
Yeah,
company. Yep.
yep, so that would come next. And then one of my questions regarding that was about, I saw that there would be a 2% penalty fee if we paid it off in full. I assume that means we're paying interest.
So the interest would be about 5% is what I was told today, but
Yep.
we need to get the paperwork from the bank. So if we can actually pay it off, it'd actually be better.
And did we plan out how many years it would take us to pay it off with did we do any of that
Believe
analysis?
It's a 5-year lease, what they told us.
5-year lease,
Correct.
5%. And then,
But our goal is to pay that off, look at what we have from, any surplus from FY *24, as well as what can we budget in, so that way we're not keeping a lease for those many years and having the interest on top.
I know that there's a penalty, a 2% penalty to pay it off in full, but is there a penalty if you overpay your payment?
We don't believe so, I don't.
No,
believe
you know what I
there
mean,
is-
if you owe $200 that month, if you pay
Right.
$400, is it
Right,
okay?
Yeah, that will check, I think that it
Yeah.
was just paying it off completely.
Completely, it's a 2%.
But I think we can,
Also, if I may, just so you're comfortable, I do have the specs here, and it is listed in the specs.
Other questions from the committee?
I'll move passage. Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe I missed this in the beginning, and I don't want to look a gift bus in the mouth, but why does the other people not want this?
So another school department ordered the vehicles, and they decided to pull out. I don't know if it was their funding. I don't know if they had purchased more than what's available at this time.
Okay.
But yes, so that's why they're on the lot.
Okay.
It doesn't happen very often.
Okay. Just to clarify too, because it always makes me nervous when we're committing budget funds from future committees. It sounds like we have the 66 right now to start the lease, but then the rest would have to be, I feel like we'd need to document somehow, and we've done this before in the savings account way. I think we'd have to earmark something that would say each fiscal year this much would need to be attributed, because we're basically pre-committing budget funds from future budgets in theory, which is fine, but I think we just
You're
need to
authorized
be
to be able
clear
to do
on
the
that.
contractual
We did our
purchases,
contracts,
so, yeah.
We
employee
do it with
contracts.
contracts.
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
Valid point. I think we just need to be really clear and outline it so that if committees change, if they're very clear understanding. Because I remember how hard it was
but
for
if we
us.
sign
Yeah.
a lease, if we're signing this, then that's.
That-
I think
And
that's
then
a
when we
state
do our
law.
budget and we
Yeah.
put that forward, that's there as.
No, totally. I'm just saying document it. Explain, make sure that we are really clear on our documentation of our plan and what fiscal years we would want to allocate how much money from and what that might look like. They obviously could adjust it, but I just remember coming in as chair, it was so confusing to try to understand all the past financial agreements that prior committees had put into place. Having it be really clear, I think, would be helpful.
Yeah, because I think the memo currently says we know we have the 66,000, but we anticipate a surplus. If we don't have a surplus, so just to.
They'll go back to this document, so having an
Yes,
accompanying
having it
document
in
with
here.
with a timeline plan would be helpful.
Yeah.
I'm apt to approve it just because of the scarcity of the buses. I do think long-term it's important for this committee to start looking at buses that aren't gas-only buses. But I also understand in the reality right now.
I don't have all of the documentation in front of me, but there is a change that will be coming down in 2027. Mass was going to adopt it in 2025. They pushed it out to 2026. It's going to fall under the CARB law, the California Air Recycle Board. So this will become essentially a no diesel state in 2027.
So does that mean the buses that doesn't help your case, Michelle?
No, it does. These are gas. These are gas.
Right.
Okay, so these are not diesel, they're not electric.
Correct.
They're in the middle.
Correct.
And the point
Okay.
we're
These are
bringing-
gas.
The point we're bringing this up is because what you're just
Yeah.
saying. We're going to have to look at
It's gonna be a problem.
other, in the future, when we're purchasing buses,
Yeah.
are they gas or electric?
Yeah.
And, you know, if you currently own a diesel bus, you would have to, when you're
Yep.
going to replace it, it's gonna have to be within the
Okay.
law that gets
So
passed.
this
Yeah.
is a step forward in the
It is. It's a
making
step
it sustainable.
Because these two buses that we're actually going to retire are diesel.
Yes, okay.
Save the environment.
I'll take progress. But I think that's something important too, is in the fleet plan, thinking about what that piece of it is too. Okay, so we have the motion on the floor
Move passage.
to pass it. Any further discussion?
Wait.
Who made that?
I move
Because
passage.
only have- oh, you
I did.
Did we get a second?
I thought I made the motion.
Oh, that's okay,
We
I'll
had a
second.
motion to discuss.
We did,
Oh, I
Yeah,
did
it
have a
was
motion to
discussed.
discuss,
Mine's
okay.
So
yeah.
Jim made the motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yes, thank you for explaining,
Sure.
and if we could just get those documents, Ken, like, as you all move forward with the lease and stuff, just to make it really clear, that'd be great. Okay, moving on to the next item. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to discuss.
Yeah.
So, I.
Wait, do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
I'd asked for this to be added to tie into what Jim had brought up last week in terms of the ease of finding something in a meeting. And so I'd like to ask that admin look in to see how we can provide that for our recordings the way that the town council does with their chaptering. You just hit right on the agenda item and whoop, it's there. So I'm hoping that we can make the ask to get a cost estimate and any other pertinent information that would be involved with having that be something that we can provide to the community. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up when we were talking about like school committee meetings and the videotaping of them is like the YouTube captioning on them is really not great. And so for our like hearing impaired people who like are watching this, it's really it's not good.
The nonverbals
Yes.
behind the camera just changed.
And so I just don't know if there is an option there that we could look into. And then at the same time, what we're talking about, like we stream the meetings, which are great, but there's what type of accessibility options are we offering to the community, for the live streaming portion of it. So I just kind of wanted to put that on the table to discuss those three things.
Yeah. I'd actually mentioned this because I was looking back at our meeting lengths, go figure, right? And it was hard to find these things because it wasn't chaptering. This is great. I certainly endorse this and asked for it. Well, myself, I thought we should have it.
We did bring it up with Mr.
Yeah.
Mollis too, and
Oh,
he
you
said
did?
that the RIT staff could connect with them to see the possibility of like utilizing their same.
Yeah, we might be, because
Yeah.
they have a program and we're all part of the
Yeah.
town, we might be
'Cause we're
able
part
to
of the
see
town,
that
we might be
here.
able to-
So
yeah.
we're gonna look
Yeah,
into that
so,
with our tech department.
just to
and
find
see
out
if
like
there's
what
a
the options are, what the
way to
costs
use
are, and then
what's
just
called granny crannies that they-
accessibility.
And plus, if we could get off of YouTube, 'cause it is hard to find stuff on YouTube sometimes, depending on what search words you put in. Other systems I've seen for school committees actually have their own resource. I don't think it's on their computers, I could be wrong. But they have a service that just like stores it, and it's an actual order of what they are. On YouTube, it's like it's throwing a dot at an invisible wall. It's hard to figure out where you put the data in there. You hope you get the meeting stuff, but it's kind of haphazard. If you have it lined up chronologically as just like little pictures with the dates of the meetings, it works really well.
Oh,
there you go.
Come on over.
Yes.
So we have playlists set up so that if you wanted like DEI, there's a whole list of 2024 DEI meetings, so you can see them all from this year, or you can look back to past years.
On our website?
On our YouTube channel.
On YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Yep. So if you just go to our YouTube channel, they're all broken out
Is there
into
a link to
playlists.
that from our website?
Yes, yeah, if you go to school committee meetings, they go to recordings, they're all, and
Yeah.
like, it just said, they're all very like, it's the school committee, it's the DEI, it's the policy, it's the thing, it's.
Maybe it was
as
the
long
way
as
you
it's-
I found it just
It is
a
more
little
recent that we did
disorganized
do
the
that.
way it
We
was.
broke it out into that because it was just
Yeah.
a jumbled mess.
It's a jumble, yeah.
But it
Okay,
is now
so-
in those.
Yeah,
It is now, as of
it has been, yeah.
It's been for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's more recent though.
like Month,
like
a year?
Yeah, months.
Months, okay.
Okay, but to Jim's point, I think anything we can do to make it more user-friendly for people to find which meeting they want to watch, and then looking into the chaptering, thank you so much, would be good. And then to Jen's point, looking at better captioning options, because I know that some places also you can get captioning in different languages as well, which can be helpful perhaps for some of the folks that are watching our meetings. But I definitely think, and then also to Jim's point, looking into perhaps moving off of YouTube and moving on to I would guess, more secure video. Like, if YouTube disappeared tomorrow, would all our videos disappear? Like, for archival purposes and stuff? So,
I think that'd be it.
Yeah.
Please don't say that.
I'm just saying, we don't control that entity, so looking into that piece. So it sounds
Except-
like there's 3 or 4 things that we'd like.
A little public service announcement, except for a web page called The Time Machine. It actually captures everything on the web like a vacuum cleaner. They're in litigation now, so it's kind of frozen, but
Well,
otherwise it's there. So
it's a weird history teacher fun
yeah.
fact.
Little history.
Okay, so I don't think we need an official vote on this. Is if the administration's amenable to looking into it and giving us an update at a future meeting. And again, I think these are a lot of ideas. I don't think our goal is to make a lot of additional work for the IT staff. We're very grateful for them recording our meetings and posting them and all of those sort of things. But if there are some easy things that we could do or some resources that we need that we want to consider for the budget, that's the kind of information we would be looking for.
Madam Chair, in the interest of time, I think we're on letter K. Can I make the motion to approve items plural in letter K and item in letter L, if I am correct that they are basically recognizing the time that we had our staff and other folks attend.
You want to put them together, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, put them together.
Yep, so you can make a motion to...
I'll move to put letters K, the items under K and L, and one motion to approve.
Yeah.
Second.
Perfect, and just to clarify, there are 3 different ones within
Three
the
different
2 different
correct,
items.
different unions.
Yep.
I just wanted to take a minute and really thank Dr. Duba and Mr. Mezzanotte about this. You know, having been here when we've unfortunately encountered a similar situation, I can't tell you what a difference it was this time. And, you know, I've heard from so many teachers about how supported they felt through this process and, you know, how much they appreciate the way it was handled. And I know I personally appreciate the conversations that we had back and forth, even, you know, when we didn't think necessarily, we weren't sure which way, just to be able to engage, with humanity around, the people in our district was so, I was very grateful for that, and I know I've heard from people in the district that they were too. And I appreciate you working with RIDE to get that waiver so that the day didn't have to be made up. I mean, this was, like you said, a horrible, loss for the community. But I think just the way it was handled this time was so much better. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
nice
we
job.
have a really good team in place. Working with Rob and myself and high school administration and other district administration and the unions and all of you for the support from the state level. Everyone really did come together. I mean, I had phone calls from state level as well of seeing what's happening in the district right now. This combination of what even the prior week, of things, and what can we do to help you and really appreciate what you're doing. And I think having those relationships at a state level as well, and working within our community and supporting each other makes a big difference.
No, it's appreciated.
Yeah, I would add big things to district attorneys for working with NEA and the union.
Nice job,
Thanks,
Andy.
but no, they dropped a lot of things to write those MOAs and work through how to do it in a time crunch so that we were able to give them the day on Monday and approve it. And so that took a lot of coordination, so thank you for that as
Nice
well.
job.
If I may, real quick. I just want to add to that. I think it's important to also note the importance of the mental health professionals who were involved in this process: school psychologists, social workers, school counselors. It definitely warrants mentioning that their level of expertise was invaluable, and they're an unbelievable resource for us.
Thank you for
And
that.
just the number of hours they put in. You got meetings over the weekend at nighttime and coming in early. Just really, everyone came together to do what was right for our community members.
No, and that was, it's appreciated. And if there's anything support-wise, I know we offered this before, that we can continue to do, just let us know. We're here to help.
I do think too, these are temporary MOAs, but in contract negotiations, we can consider this, and then also may want to consider doing an amendment, an official permanent amendment with NEA and K to, like, we kind of, I think our intent was good with the last language, but we noticed some holes in it, and so being able to fix that so that we don't have to do special agreements would be helpful as well.
Right.
Okay, anything else on these ones? Okay. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving 1, 2, and 1 for ESP, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And then correspondence.
Correspondence, October 8th, Katie Kelhire, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Student Resource Officers, 10-8, Carrie Carreros, Student Resource Officers, 10-15, Matt McCoy, NK 350th Anniversary Essay Contest.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.